the meetings. The Board of Education for Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District will reconvene in open session, 1907 hours. And be advised, these meetings are televised. Channel 28 on Wednesday and Saturday mornings, and on Monday, Friday, and Saturday mornings. Wednesday and Saturday evenings, Monday, Friday, and Saturday mornings. We're going to start this evening with our flag salute. I'd ask our superintendent if you could lead us. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're coming back in from closed session right now, and any actions we take in closed session, we report out. So I would ask Trustee Guzman.
Yep.
I believe we have one from a previous special session, and then we have the one we're just coming in from.
Yes. In closed session on June 7, 2023, the board voted 3-2 to approve Superintendent Chris Van Schaack's evaluation as satisfactory for the 22-23 school year. The roll call vote was as follows. President Bueno, nay. Trustee Pruso, aye. Trustee Druin, aye. Trustee Guzman, nay. Trustee Wong, aye.
Thank you very much.
Then we have the expulsion readout. Mr. President, in closed session, we received information pertaining to the recommended expulsion of student L. Based upon that information, I move that we approve the staff recommendation for the stipulated expulsion of student L. I move for a motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. And so we have a motion, and I'd entertain a second.
Second.
So we have a motion in support of the superintendent's recommendation on the expulsion by Guzman, and that has been seconded by Trustee Druin. Any discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Trustee Wong?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Trustee Druin?
Aye.
Trustee Guzman?
Aye.
President Bueno?
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. A little bit on the meeting procedures. Again, this is our regular meeting of the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District Board of Education. Our primary focus here is on the education of students within the jurisdiction of this agency. During the meeting, each of you will have the opportunity to share ideas, information, things like that regarding matters within our jurisdiction. And during our discussion on each agenda item, there will be a time for you to have the opportunity to speak to that item. If the item is not on the agenda, please fill out a tan speaker card, one like this, and we'll get you under the communication from the public, which is 8.1. If it's an agendized item, please fill out one of these blue cards and pass them up to either end of the desk up here, and they'll work their way around. In either circumstance, when you come up, on some of them, if we get quite a few, if there's more than 2 or 3, we'll say who's on deck so we can get ready. It's a 3-minute. The little timer shows up on the screens on the sides of us. We'd ask each person to speak once, and when you get to around 30 seconds, sometimes people are, you're reading from something you have prepared, so sometimes I'll remind you gently that you're at 30 seconds or 20 seconds to go. And then the folks in the back that are behind the speaker, if you happen to be in agreement with what someone's saying, just simply put your hand up. That way we can see that, and we ask people to refrain from applause. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but applause or any other kind of noise, because we really want to hear it. And we'll make sure that your microphone is on before we start your timer, because we want to capture the audio, because it's being recorded and it's being streamed. So, and just a reminder that these are televised. Tri-Valley TV, cable channel 28, Wednesday and Saturday evenings. That's at 7 p.m. Monday mornings are at 10 a.m. Friday and Saturday mornings are at 9 a.m. That's it. Move to changes to the agenda, section 4.
So, Mr. President, I do have a recommendation this evening. I noted we had a number of speaker cards here for item 12.2, which is at the very end of our lengthy agenda this evening. So I'm going to recommend moving that item up to precede information items, just so that the speakers don't have to sit through the long meeting.
So would we move it in like a discussion, 9.2 or something?
Yeah, we could probably move it to 9-1, just prior to the strategic planning committee.
Okay.
So right after.
If that's, yeah, just that would be our initial item there.
Okay. Any
So
objection?
immediately after public comment, or
Immediately after the
correspondence.
correspondence, yeah.
After correspondence. Any objection? Head nod? We're good with that? Okay. Let's move that up. All right.
All right.
Anything else? No
Nope.
changes? All
That'd
right.
be enough, thanks.
Okay. If you could, if you'd introduce 5-1, I know we have a
I
couple
will certainly do
recognitions.
that. I would love to invite up some folks who have been friends of this district, friends specifically of Granada High School for many, many years. Ian Murphy, Kenny Murphy, Sherry Foe, David Johnson, Tricia Johnson, and Heidi Robinson. If you'd kind of come front and center. So this most recent year, the Granada Supporters Bingo, which has been, I believe, over a decade of operations, passed the $1 million mark in fundraising for Livermore schools. They have been an essential component to many of the programs that have been active in our schools for many, many years. And the amount of time, the amount of energy, the amount of patience that goes into the work that they do on a weekly basis, their ability to survive the COVID years and come back stronger than ever, the commitment to making the experience good for the folks who show up for bingo is really unparalleled. The time that they put into really to the selfless donations to our community. $1 million is a lot of bake sales. And yeah, that's an amazing number. And again, I know, having been there and doing my best to sell pull tabs on more than one occasion, I know the work that goes into making this a smooth operation. You guys have been absolutely incredible. And I know oftentimes you go unheralded. I think you go home every day knowing you've done great for our community, but this is an opportunity for our community to say to you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So thank you for being here. We'd love to have you come around and shake hands with the squad here, but we appreciate your efforts.
Big hand for bingo. You guys do great work. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Yeah. I know. Thank you. I remember when it switched over. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. And that is something to clarify, is these are conducted at Granada High School, but all of our schools benefit from it, and they're all able to participate. It's a really, really good thing for our students.
Yeah. So,
All righty.
all right, for 5.2, I would like to invite up Chris Connor, who's going to help recognize some more amazing folks.
Testing. Good evening, Board President Bueno, Superintendent Van Schaack, members of the Board, Cabinet and our community. I'm Chris Connor, Director of Elementary Education, and I am thrilled to recognise two phenomenal teachers with the Carol Melius Science Award for 2022-23 school year. Each year, our district seeks nominations for elementary teachers who are especially gifted and passionate in the area of science instruction for this award. Dr. Carol Melius is a practicing theoretical chemist at Sandia National Laboratories who has for the past several years has generously established a cash award for excellence in science teaching. Teachers must demonstrate an exemplary job of integrating science into the diverse classroom curriculum. Teachers should have developed innovative teaching strategies or special projects that motivate and involve students through the use of the scientific process. This year, we have the pleasure of recognizing 2 outstanding recipients for embodying what the Carol Melius Award represents. The first recipient is Jessica Radzikowski, the science specialist from Emma Smith Elementary School. Her principal, Miss Minue, shared that Miss Rads is one of the most amazing science educators I have ever worked with. She is student-centered and has been incredible with her implementation of her Trig science curriculum. With her passion and dedication to science, she has inspired and mentored other teachers, spreading curiosity and excitement for science. Our second recipient is Heather Carroll. Heather is a first grade teacher from Rancho Las Positas Elementary School. Go Rancho. Principal Martin shared from the beginning of the school year, Heather has been very willing to learn the Trig curriculum and teach the lessons to her class. Her enthusiasm for connecting classroom learning to lab activities develops students' learning opportunities in which science connections can be made to the real world. The students come to science excited and engaged in what they are doing. Heather has gone above and beyond, reading books based on her science topics, gone outside to guide the students in investigations, and has shown her students that science is everywhere. Students in Miss Carroll's class will have a solid foundation of science with an enthusiasm to keep learning about the world around us. She has ignited her students' curiosity and fostered their love for science. As you can see, Heather and Jessica are very deserving of the Carol Melius Science Recognition. Each of these teachers will receive a $500 cash award to be put towards the purchase of materials and supplies that will assist them in the continued development of future unique and engaging science projects. Our district is very proud to have such a generous partnership with Dr. Carol Melius that will help us highlight 2 fantastic science educators each year. A round of applause for Heather and Jessica.
Really, really good work. Thank you very much. Really nice work. Thank you. Well, with our recent graduation of our 2 comprehensive high schools, our 2 board members, McKinsey and Loudon, have moved on, probably setting up their plans for their college plans. So we're going to forego Section 6, which is our student board member reports, until next year. And we're going to move into 7, which are our employee association reports. And so we have our groups, Livermore Education Association is on their way up. And then we also have CSEA, SEIU, Christy Governor, Stephanie Wagner with CSEA, and Christy Governor with SEIU, and then Lily Lopez, who does our confidentials. You're good.
Good evening, Board President Bueno, Superintendent Van Schaack, members of the Board and Cabinet. I'm Amy Thompson, President of the Livermore Education Association, representing teachers, nurses, psychologists, speech pathologists, and teachers on special assignment. I start every meeting stating the categories of people that are members of LEA. Tonight, I want to give you a greater level of data. LEA is 4 adapted PE teachers, 1 certificated teacher librarian, 14.8 counselors, 1 deaf and hard of hearing specialist, 15 elementary science specialists, 514.5 general education teachers, 2 union officers, 2 elementary music teachers, 7.4 secondary music teachers, 21 psychologists, 41.8 resource specialists, 5.4 nurses, 57 special day class teachers, 18 speech and language pathologists, 5 teachers on special assignment, and 2 TV tip, for a total of 712.5 full-time equivalent members of our bargaining unit. I am pleased to report that we were able to wrap up negotiations, and our members voted to ratify the agreements reached for 9 articles and a few appendices. Many of the updates being made to the contract will help clarify our processes. One exciting change is the agreement to honor all years of service credit for new hires. This has been a trend in many districts recently and will help us to be competitive in attracting teachers. We have scheduled our meeting for the Joint Advisory Committee to review state and district budgets for a little bit later this summer. We look forward to working together and understanding the budget implications and arriving at the best solutions for students. I'm unable to attend next week, so I would like to wish you all a wonderful, rejuvenating summer break. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I don't believe that Stephanie Wagner, or Kirsty Governor, or Lily are here tonight. So we're going to move into communication from the public, previously mentioned, is 8.1. Communication from our public is the time for you to comment either in writing or verbally on any item that is not on the agenda. Now, we, the board, may listen to the comment, and we may even ask staff clarifying questions following, but we will neither discuss nor take action at this meeting on topics that are not on the agenda, and this is in accordance with the Brown Act. So if you would like to address a topic that is not on this evening's agenda, now would be the time to do so. Again, it's the 3 minutes, and I will call you up. I do have a list here, but feel free if anyone has another card, you can just bring them to Mrs. Thede or to one of our techs or Mr. Warner over on the end there. First up, because we do have a few tonight, first up is Jennifer Wong, and then Aisha Bardoliwala on deck. Good evening. And let's hit the button, and now you're good.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Wong. I am the president of Granada Music Parents, a 501c3 nonprofit that supports all of the music programs at Granada High School. I'm here tonight to bring your attention to the fact that LVJUSD is the only district in the Tri-Valley area that does not currently offer any form of physical education credit for our marching arts students, those in marching band, color guard, and drumline. The Granada Music Parents would like to work with you to address that discrepancy. Our goal is to develop a district-wide policy modeled on accommodations already made for athletics. Marching band, drumline, and color guard students put in a great deal of physical effort to rehearsing and performing. As with athletics, any program that includes a significant amount of regular sustained physical activity should be considered a viable alternative to physical education classes. For background, our Granada Matador Marching Band kicks off their fall season with a full week of camp in August. They continue with marching practice held twice a week during a band class period. This year it's first period, Monday through Friday, plus evening and weekend rehearsals, running September through November. For the first time in many years, this year the marching band is adding a field show again, which will increase the time commitment for marching rehearsals. Livermore High obviously has a very dynamic music department, but they no longer have marching competition programs. Granada Music Parents opened our doors to color guard students from LHS 2 years ago. We now sponsor the award-winning City of Livermore Guard, a collaborative program that welcomes any LVJUSD extracurricular activity eligible high school student to compete and perform with our color guard program. They have 2 competition seasons running August to November and December to April. Weekly rehearsals range from 10 to 14 hours a week. The program is very physically demanding. Participation in our drum line requires both strength and stamina. Their practices range from 6 to 10 hours per week. Their competition seasons also run August to November and December to April. We're considering opening that program up to other LVJUSD students as well, similar to the color guard. All of our competitive programs include more weekly time in active movement than the Monday through Friday PE classes, and that's the baseline that we're comparing to. We'd like to recommend a policy that includes the following criteria. Students will need to have passed freshman physical education classes and requirements,
30 seconds.
including any physical fitness testing as mandated by the state. Students must meet athletics eligibility requirements, currently a 2.0 minimum GPA from the previous trimester, and 1 term of PE credit would be granted for each season completed, in line with current athletics provisions. I'll email each of you tomorrow morning to follow up on this and provide links to the comparable policies for Pleasanton, Dublin, and San Ramon. We look forward to working with you on this. Thank you.
Thank you. I would ask the speaker, Ms. Wang, if you could also include the superintendent on that email, just so that it gets to the administration. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, Asha Bardoliwala, and followed by Catherine Wong.
And can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So, board members, superintendent, I just really wanted to express from the bottom of my heart gratitude for your part in saving the IB program at GHS. I know that it was a tough decision with a lot of different factors and different things that played a role in your decision, but sometimes, you know, as younger students, we feel like we might not always have a voice, even though we have a lot of things to say. And I just feel like, you know, we really felt heard and we really felt addressed, and we just really wanted to express our gratitude for that. So thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jennifer Wong, followed by Brooke Witherspoon. I'm sorry, Catherine Wong. I'm looking at 3 things here at one time.
Good evening. At the last meeting, I spoke about how we were willing to streamline the IB program. The current and future Granada IB students, thank you for working with our parents to find a solution to keep the program. This will forever benefit us in the future, and we greatly appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you. Brooke Witherspoon, followed by Sarah Suresh.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to also take a moment to thank you for all of the work you do. I was able to witness firsthand all of the time and thoughtful attention that you put into every decision. I truly appreciate your willingness to meet with the incredible IB students, myself, and other members of our IB parent group to help us better understand your perspectives and for you to learn from ours. I am so proud of what we were able to accomplish together. The International Baccalaureate program aims to develop inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who help to create a better and more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. Thank you so much for allowing space for our IB students to advocate for this type of education. We look forward to a continued partnership and the opportunity to offer this style of education to any student that desires it. Through fundraising, community education, and on-site training, the GHS IB program will be nurtured into a program that we can all be very proud of. We know that the work is just beginning, but we sincerely thank you for the opportunity to be able to do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Sarah Suresh, followed by Jennifer Hayes. You're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Dear President Bueno, trustees, and Superintendent Van Schaack, when I first spoke in front of you at the school board, I asked you that whether you choose to keep the IB program or not, know that you'll be teaching the students a valuable lesson. I can confidently say that we have learned a principle that we would have not learned inside of a classroom, the power of a community. People who are not directly affected stayed here past midnight to try to show their support for one another. As the community worked with you to find an agreeable compromise, I'm just beyond elated to be able to say that the International Baccalaureate program will stay here. For that and so much more, I'm grateful that we have the board members like you who believe us and work with us continuously and earnestly to fight for a common cause. I appreciate what you have done for the Livermore community and for the lesson and for letting our voices be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Hayes, followed by Mike Ward.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. Well, I would like to thank the board members, Guzman, Yanira, Christy Wong, and Mr. Druin, Stephen Druin, for attending our 8th grade presentations. This is really a unique aspect of the middle school IB education. It's the 8th grade community service projects, and I hope that the board members that were able to attend really enjoyed it. I wanted to share something with you that I do in Spanish class. That might seem like a strange context, but you just heard from Brooke Witherspoon, who was quoting the IB mission statement, which is to help foster students through education to be able to help create a better and more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. And one of the things that we can do in Spanish is we talk about identity and we talk about culture, because that's part of the national standards for world language instruction. But also within IB, we also have standards that can deal with identity, the construction of identity, or how we develop our identities. And then, of course, there's the intercultural understanding and respect. And I asked my 8th grade students at the end of the MYP journey, at least at our school, to reflect on their IB education. They had to select a quote, they had to relate it to the IB mission statement, and then they had to reflect on their own understanding of what that means. I have cherry-picked one student's answer, I'll be honest. But it was a very big bushel of cherries from which I could have selected from. So she wrote, the quote I immediately resonated with most was Madeleine Albright's quote, former Secretary of State. Instead of seeking yet more data to defend what we already think, we need to learn what others think and why they think it. Instead of conspiring with the like-minded, we need to spend more time learning from those we consider wrong-headed. Even while we challenge the premise of those with whom we disagree, we should take time to re-examine the logic of our own thinking. I chose this quote, my student says, because I see it as the basis of all genuinely productive debate in the world. In order for people to collaborate and genuinely listen to each other, the most important requirement of both sides is a complete understanding of not only their own views, but also others' views. It's extremely easy to claim moral high ground by seeing your worldview as entirely correct and the opposing worldview as entirely wrong. But it is more difficult to be capable of stepping away from that in order to evaluate faults in your own worldview. This applies to everything from disagreements between individuals to understanding entire cultures with different values of concepts. Having a strong understanding and respect, not only for other cultures, but also your own, is what allows for a better and more peaceful world. And then they had to end with a question, and hers was,
that's your time.
how can we raise generations of people that will have self-awareness to be capable of constantly keeping an open mind? Thanks for coming.
Now we have Mike Ward, followed by Sydney Cushman.
The Livermore School Board meeting starts off with the Pledge of Allegiance, and most of us stand still and state that we are one nation under God. Every bit of currency that you might have in your wallet or in your pockets tonight will declare, "In God we trust" on it. I see many individuals here tonight, some waving little flags with symbols of the rainbow. And I wonder how many of them know that the rainbow is God's promise to man to never destroy life on earth again by water. Now the entire month of June has been set aside to celebrate a lifestyle. It is called Pride Month. I'm reminded of Proverbs 11:2, which says, when pride comes, then comes disgrace. But with humility comes wisdom. Whether you are a Christian or Jewish, you will find the same word of God in Isaiah 29:13. The Lord says, these people come near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. I've watched and listened to many parents over the last couple of months ask the school board to keep explicit pornographic books out of the school libraries. They are rightly concerned about the degrading effect pornography, whether straight or gay, has on the human psyche. It is actually hard to believe that parents should even have to make such a request, but here we are. In fact, we have even reached the point where men with beards dress up in women's clothing and read stories to children in our public libraries and college libraries. I have to ask, just how much more can we possibly confuse children? I'm actually here tonight to urge the inclusion of a book in our school libraries. It's a book that the school board and the school superintendent should actively promote and support. It is the greatest love story ever told. It's the world's best-selling book, the Holy Bible. It speaks to why we claim to be a nation under God and stamp in God we trust on our currency. It is the one book that explains life and offers victory over death, a death that we will all eventually have to face. As a believer in Jesus Christ, I am commanded by our Lord to love my fellow man. Jesus stated it clearly in John 15:17. This is my command, love each other. It does not get any clearer than that. And I know of no better way to love than to speak the truth, because whether you believe it or not, there is a judgment coming for each of us. And it is our eternal life that is being determined. Jesus spoke the path to heaven in Matthew 7 when he said, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction. And many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Straight, gay, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, or however you identify yourself, remember this: God does not show favoritism. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows.
That's your time, sir.
Can I just say
That's your time. Thank you. Our next speaker
I want to let everybody know.
Cushman.
I want to let everybody know, just one real quick.
No, it's,
I'm
sir.
going to put Bibles outside the lobby for
That's your
anybody
time,
who's
sir.
interested, because that's
That's
my
your time,
gift of
sir.
love to you.
Let's be fair. Okay. Next speaker is Sydney Cushman, followed by Nicole Pilkington. Good evening.
Good evening. Respect is universal, regardless of race, gender, sexuality, religion. Categorizing, labeling, and highlighting every aspect and difference among ourselves continually is one step away from dividing us into separate or opposing factions, and we already see that happening. Respectful behavior does not mean we have to agree or approve of one another's choices. The term inclusive has been manipulated into a requirement. We don't need to accept everyone into our personal circle, but we can still treat others with dignity. Topics that are politicized, highly contested, or have a deep basis in personal value systems should not be taught as fact. This is not to say they shouldn't be talked about, but the bias with which most are being presented is not appropriate. With that being said, pride in the current form is a slippery slope. As a concept, pride must be balanced with humility. Excessive pridefulness leads right back into disrespect of others, a lack of personal growth from overlooking our own faults, and a lack of dignity in our behavior. As an event, pride is extremely tied into the sexually provocative demonstrations. Pride events are notorious for having adults parading around half-naked, fully naked, in bondage, lingerie, or in sexual fetish costumes, holding sex toys, or with signs with perverse language. This is what pride has been for many, many years. To begin roping children into the concept of pride events as a way to promote respect to others is a huge moral and ethical problem. Handing out pride flags, parading around campuses, etc., is a direct replication of these highly sexualized pride events. This is not the place nor duty of teachers or administrators, grown men and women in the district, to introduce or subtly normalize these events to minors. It is completely unnecessary and not useful in teaching actual skills of respecting differences. The focus should always be on respectful attitudes, not prideful attitudes. We should be highlighting our common ground and similarities instead of dividing our youth by their differences. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Our next speaker is Nicole Pilkington, followed by Debbie Gibson.
Hello. When my young daughter asks how someone can have two moms, I simply say that each family is different and beautiful in its own way. When my young boy asks if men can be married, I simply answer, the simple answer for me is love comes in many forms. I don't believe these answers to my children breed hate or teach them to be exclusive. So I will repeat, as I often do, my issues are not with the LGBTQ community, but with the Livermore School District. My answers to my young children aren't sexually explicit, and they don't need to be. I think that's where our district has gone awry. It is possible to teach inclusivity and love for others without delving into the depths of sexuality. With bills like AB 957, which went before the California State Senate today, threatening to terminate parental rights for a family who doesn't affirm a child's sexual identity in the manner in which the state sees fit, can you really blame parents for being concerned about what's being taught in school and at such a young age? There are many ways to love and parent a child. Just as who makes up a family can be different yet beautiful, so can parenting styles. When did we start believing the state and school district had the right to tell parents how to handle difficult issues, such as sexuality? I'm not asking to have my personal beliefs injected into the school curriculum, but I am asking that controversial topics such as the genderbread person and the sexual transition of minors remain topics to be discussed at home within families. I firmly believe the district is overstepping its bounds when it chooses to bring up topics best left for a family's dinner table. The problem becomes even larger when we have teachers in our district instructing students that a parent who doesn't affirm their every idea is unloving. This back and forth at school board meetings will never end as long as the district allows teachers to put a wedge between families. If the district cannot figure out how to involve these sensitive topics in the curriculum without making parents the enemy, it should not be in the curriculum at all, period. I will end as I always do. I am the parent.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Debbie Gibson, followed by Emily Wilson.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Van Schaack. There are a couple of items that I would like to address at this time. On June 7th, there was a special board meeting held. One of the agenda items was to approve Superintendent Van Schack's positive performance evaluation for the 2022 to 2023 year. President Bueno and Trustee Guzman voted nay. It makes me wonder the reason for the nay votes. Tonight, in the consent items, there is a resolution to recognize and celebrate June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month. In the first paragraph of the resolution, the district's affirmation that all kids are our kids is very troubling. They are not your children. In the board's attempt to be inclusive, you are actually discriminating against all other groups that are not celebrated for a month. I do agree that this school should be an all-inclusive school, but why is it that this group has one full month to itself? According to your own Code of Ethics, 9271E, you are to and I quote, represent the interests of all people served by the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District and not favor one special interest inside or outside of this district, unquote. I would like to know what is the criteria to promote any special interest group. Singling out one group negates your attempt to be all-inclusive. This resolution does not promote inclusiveness to all students and staff. If you want to be all-inclusive, do not put any special interest group or groups above everyone else for any length of time, anytime during the year. I would also like to know what exactly is Pride Month. Calling this a month about pride by focusing on sexual preferences and body mutilation is not what the school should be standing for or promoting. Why is the board proposing a resolution to celebrate sexual behavior when minors should not be encouraged to engage in sexual activity? Placing this ever-changing acronym before the word pride is disingenuous. When you vote on this resolution, remember that the pride of your heart has deceived you. Obadiah 1:3. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Emily Wilson, followed by Alex Izares.
Good evening, Board President Bueno, Superintendent Van Schaack, board members, cabinet, and community. My name is Emily Wilson. I use she or they pronouns. And I first wanted to start by wishing you all a happy Pride Month and to thank you for supporting our LGBTQ+ students and for recognizing June officially as LGBTQ+ Pride Month. Allyship is not meant to be comfortable. It's definitely not comfortable to be sitting up here. It's not comfortable to listen to all this bigotry, and it's not comfortable to stand up against hate and bigotry. But I respect you all so much for being strong with your allyship and support for our LGBTQ+ community at LVJUSD. We are not pedophiles, thank you very much. I heard that. I am not afraid of being targeted. I have been targeted so many times. Many other students, parents, educators, and community members are being targeted, and they're also afraid. And that's why I will keep showing up. I know I am being targeted because I am openly queer. And forgive me if I get emotional, but this is personal to me. And I will not be intimidated into silence. Drag is not a crime. Being queer is not a crime. There's nothing wrong with how you identify, what pronouns you use, or any of that. There's nothing wrong with exploring your identity or exploring how you express your identity. And there's nothing wrong with our students being free to do so. I am proud of who I am. I am proud of who I love, and there's nothing wrong with that. Granada High School students recently put up a display that showed 184 empty chairs that represented 184 students that experienced discrimination due to their sexual orientation. 241 students reported being racially discriminated against. There are only 180 days in the school year. Gender and who you're romantically attracted to, who you're physically attracted to, it is a spectrum. And there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with identifying in that spectrum or outside of that spectrum. It's okay to be who you are. You are valid in your identity, no matter what that is. So I just want to ask the board how we can do more to keep our students safe, because as Drew Shirt and I says, it takes all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alex Izares, followed by James Grippy. And I'd like to remind folks, and we ask it just as a matter of just civility, we don't need the long applause. I know that sometimes it's an emotional response, but just a brief applause, we understand. You can put your hands up in support. And one thing that I won't tolerate procedurally, the folks in the audience, I don't want you addressing the folks that are speaking, and the folks that are speaking, I don't want you to directly address the folks in the audience, address the board. And if anything outside of that, in terms of the addressment and being civil, as board president, I will clear the room, and we will bring one person in at a time to address the board. This is the board's meeting to conduct the school district's business. And as part of that, we like to listen, and we want to hear, and we want to be very civil, and we want to hear what people have to say. But we can't have people that are feeling as though their words aren't heard by us, and we do want to hear what you have to say, despite what your opinion is. And so we just want people to be civil. We do a really good job here in this community with that, and I'm just reminding folks. So thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Izares.
Good evening. Mr. Bueno, throughout the board meetings, you have shown your bias, and I'd like to suggest going back and reading through your board bylaws, particularly Board Bylaw 9121. Parents coming in here week after week are concerned for their children, and your solution is to ignore parents. Never reaching out, never acknowledging the pain and fear they feel, rarely looking at us as we speak. As much as we may not agree on certain things, I am grateful some on this board have at least acknowledged some of us. Recently at Granada, a student was given an LGBTQ history assignment that had a few interesting questions. One question was about a massacre at a gay bar. The article was extremely heartbreaking, and I understand teaching inclusivity is important. However, the one question that was asked about this article was skewed at having a negative view of Christians. It's pretty unbelievable that the children could have learned a number of different things, yet throwing more hatred into the mix was the best solution here. All over the world, other countries have their students excelling in learning, yet we are focused on teaching our kids about sexuality. We're teaching our kids what gender they like, they can change their gender, and it's okay to hide these things from their parents. Parents are often misled by the line, would you rather have a dead daughter or an alive son, and vice versa when transitioning. I understand you're in a tough position, but someone in this district needs to have the backbone to protect our children and stand up to whomever it may be and say enough is enough. Our children deserve better. I implore you to look into these late teens and young adults who have had to detransition, look into the bad bills taking away our rights, AB 352, 665, 957, the list goes on. The district's initiative, as I understand it, says all kids are our kids. I'd like to ask you, do you feed my children at night? When they are sick, do you take them to the doctors or stay up late praying the fever will break? When they are being bullied and picked on by a teacher, do you go to bat for them? Do you teach them the fundamentals of who they are as a person and their faith? Do they know you as someone they can trust, someone who will have their back no matter what? What about sit and listen to them when their heart breaks from the evils of this world? No, you don't. Instead, you teach them the things going against everything they are taught in the home, going against their religion they are taught from their parents, whether it be Christian, Jewish, Muslim. You're okay with teaching our children not just to be kind and loving toward people, but completely separate yourself from your parent and hide from them. The people who support this agenda being pushed have every right to do so. However, hundreds, if not thousands in Livermore are sick of it. They are sick of their parental rights being infringed upon. You can continue on with these issues being pushed, but realize this. At this moment, there are groups forming constitutional programs for kids to get an unbiased education with large groups of parents inquiring about it. Continue down this road and you will be responsible for the collapse of this district. I'll end with this quote by John Adams. I fear that in every elected office, members will obtain an influence not by noise, not sense, by meanness, not greatness, by ignorance, not learning, by contracted hearts, not large souls. There must be decency and respect. I'm here to tell you my children are a gift from God in heaven, and they are mine, period.
Thank you. Our next speaker is James Grippy, followed by Megan Trant.
So first, I just want to address the board and say all of us parents that are up here for supporting parents' rights, I don't think I've ever heard anyone tearing down anyone of the LGBT community. We love everybody. We're not weirdos. We actually care about people, especially our children, and that's why we're all here. So anyways, good evening. I speak tonight as a tax-paying citizen to the district, paying the huge salaries and pensions of the teachers within. So let's wrap up the year with how you're doing so far as a school board. Some facts you should all be proud of. Our kids have the lowest performing in core subjects in the Tri-Valley. You don't abide by your own rules and regulations by involving all parents in creating a healthy and safe environment for our children to learn in. You allow a Spanish teacher to show children of men kissing men, women kissing women, and naked men and women in a Spanish class. That's not normal. That's not teaching Spanish. You allow our children to read and check out pornographic books in your libraries about, I'm sorry, but I'm not, eating pussy and blowjobs. You confuse students from the ages of 5 to 14 to believe they can and have the ability to choose and or change their gender and don't want their parents to be involved in such a decision. You disregard students like my son and that poor young man, I believe his name is Andres, who spoke last meeting, who are bullied and targeted by your teachers for something their parents speak out against. You guys will allow a biological male to enter a female restroom or locker room and vice versa. How is that protecting students that are uncomfortable with that, let alone us crazy parents who think that is absolutely abhorrent? Finally, many are very disappointed with you as a district, and so much so, two of you, with Superintendent Van Schaack's performance. This man who is to be respected shows the exact opposite. Last meeting, he couldn't stop looking at that clock as people like me were reading. How is he still in charge, and why am I and all of us still paying this man well over a couple $100,000 for all this? When can we expect a change?
20 seconds, sir.
You have allowed people to sit here and berate and degrade people. You allow people to slander people like me by speaking to something I have never spoken about. You wear shirts that say it takes all of us and do nothing inclusive to include us. Your hypocrisy seeps through your pores.
That's your time, sir.
And it stinks.
That's your time.
It's both of our time.
That's your time, sir.
Yours too.
Megan Trant, followed by Noel Vaughn.
Good evening, President Bueno, Superintendent and board members. My name is Megan Trant. I feel compelled to bring awareness of a declared anti-government extremist hate group called Moms for Liberty, who have been consistently trying to infiltrate our schools. Do you mind? Our schools, districts, and all around the country. Moms for Liberty claims to fight for parental rights and protecting children. They actively try to remove parental rights from those they oppose. They have tried to introduce harmful bills against LGBTQ youth. They want to ban books they don't like. They try to intimidate people who speak up against them, and they request that our board break laws and defy legal authority. They instill bogus fear into families as an attempt to make us believe parental rights are being taken away, which is an outright lie. Nobody is taking away parental rights. They also want us to believe that the schools are administering mental health medications behind the backs of parents, which is also a lie. They accuse the district and those of us who oppose them of grooming children and being pedophiles, which is a flat out defamation, and another lie they make up to instill fear. When they are asked for specific details to back up their outrageous claims, they never respond with any facts or examples. Instead, they project, deflect, and lie. It's disgusting, and I'm appalled and saddened that our district and our parents have to take time away from our families to fight this nonsense. I urge our community and the board to please be aware of this extremist group. What is liberty? By definition, it is the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on its way of life, behavior, and political views. If you are paying attention, then you will take notice that Moms for Liberty is doing the exact opposite. Their mission is hypocritical, and they want to indoctrinate this country to abide by their standards and beliefs. To the school board and all the families in my community, please pay attention. Protect your families from extremist groups like Moms for Liberty. Stand with us to continue providing safe places in our schools, protect education, protect books, protect drag queens, protect teachers, protect LGBTQ youth. Moms for Liberty is a threat to the existence of anyone who is not like them, and they are for oppression. If Moms for Liberty was able to focus all their energy towards reducing gun violence against children, help get access to mental health programs for children, help provide resources and food for kids who are hungry, and so many more dire issues that our youth faces daily, can you imagine how much we could accomplish together? But no, they are mad about pronouns, something that has zero effect on them. The fact that we can continue to have active shooter drills in our schools, but apparently the use of pronouns is so horrifying to them that unalived children due to gun violence doesn't make it onto their radar. If my children are old enough to have active shooter drills starting in kindergarten, then they are old enough to understand love is love and to respect others' pronouns. But this isn't liberty. This isn't about liberty. It's not about protecting children. It's about a bunch of board moms who are so full of hate that they have all this extra time on their hands to come after people they don't like or agree with. It's not about parental rights. It's about controlling and oppressing people. So please be aware, pay attention to what's going on in our communities, and I ask the board to please continue to stay on the right side of history. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Noel Vaughn, followed by, maybe it's Lane Pascal is next. Laney? Let's go. Laney Pascal is on deck. Okay. Noel Vaughn.
Hello again, Livermore School Board members. As you can see, I've been rolling in the dough. My stocks are still up and profits have never been higher. Don't mind the blood money or the blood on my hands, as I've taken an extra job moonlighting as a gender-affirming caregiver. Since the industry's been getting so busy thanks to school boards like yours pushing progressive values and fueling our customers' delusions. Normal and sane people always come up to me and say, "You're sick. How do you sleep at night? And I tell them, on a bet of money, of course. Yeah, it's blood money, but thanks to our bought and paid for corporate media, which gets most of their ad money from us in the big pharma lobby, we help spread our message of gender-affirming care, which is a fancy euphemism we came up for genital mutilation. You see, sterilization, chemical castrations, and genital mutilations just didn't have a nice ring to them. But luckily, gender-affirming care does. It leads people to think that we actually are affirming and caring for the people that we are exploiting. Excuse me, I mean treating. But we definitely are just in it for the money. Anyone claiming otherwise is either ignorant or lying. As you can see, trans rights are big pharma profits. And progressives, school boards like yours are instrumental in maximizing the profit margins of us in the big pharma lobby. You guys were instrumental in helping push our overpriced, useless vaccines, and now you're even more useful in helping drive more students toward our overpriced genital mutilation, excuse me again, gender-affirming care services and surgeries. We need more woke and progressive teachers pushing more rainbows and more propaganda all year long. It leads kids to believe that it's trendy and cool to be a part of the LGBTQAIPP+ community, since it's so glorified, especially if those kids are already confused or suffering from, other mental health issues. We'd love to take advantage and use such underlying issues to capitalize off of them by guiding these confused youngsters towards the trans movement, because that builds our customer base. Every customer cured is a customer lost. We need these kids stuck in it for life. We need them locked in. That's a long customer. That's a lot of money for us. Parental rights advocates, they're just hateful and jealous bigots. They don't want us in big pharma industry to make lots of money off of their kids. Just think about it. If parents are more involved in their children's, educations and lives, then they'll likely talk some sense into these confused kids' heads, and then these kids will be harder to brainwash into making them think there's some other gender or they them, which ultimately would lead to less profits for us in the big pharma lobby. So the less parental rights, the better. Less rights for parents means more money for people like me. So please, continue to have your educators keep children's secrets and gender delusions hidden from their parents. Please do it. Let's keep working together, and we can make trans care a multi-billion-dollar industry. Trans rights are big pharma profits.
We have Lainey Pascal, followed by Dina Kaplanis.
Good evening, board members, staff, students, parents, those listening at home. Happy Pride Month. I thought this was going to be a little bit more of a joyful meeting than it is. So my name is Lainey Pascal, and I'm the parent of a rising 6th grade student who's going to middle school next year. So in honor of Pride Month, I'm here to offer some ideas that other school districts have implemented to support their LGBTQ students in the hope that our district could think about implementing similar programs and services. I think that our district does a great job supporting our LGBTQ youth. But of course, there's always new ideas, new things to implement, and so here are some of them. Alameda School District has something that they call an LGBTQ roundtable, which is a collaborative advisory board of students of varying grades and school sites, as well as staff and community members and parents. And this advisory board, they advise on curriculum, they ensure some consistency in policy across school sites, and they give feedback about how to make campuses more inclusive. So it's an excellent way to build community, and it's largely student-led. Another idea that San Ramon School District does is PRISM clubs. And these are essentially GSA clubs at the elementary school level, which I'm sure would be extremely controversial, but also extremely affirming and helpful for our young students. They're student-initiated. They're safe and inclusive spaces for LGBTQ youth and allies to socialize and have discussions, read books together, chat with their peers and teachers. So there's probably, a half dozen other ideas from other districts that I don't have time to list, But I wanted to bring a couple of ideas about some things that we might consider initiating here, positive things that we could do in our district to continue to support our youth. So I would love to see our district implement some of these ideas. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. And I hope you all have a wonderful summer.
Tim, thank you. Our next speaker is Dina Kaplanis, followed by Mike Carell-Feichner. Evening. One more. There you go.
Ready?
You're on.
Okay. Good evening, board members and community members. I'm coming before you tonight to express my disappointment of this past school year. On our first day of school, it was both a mixture of frustration and a scramble because, to our surprise, we did not have a teacher. It was unlike our normal, exciting first days of school. It was discouraging and uncertain. There was never any communication from the district that this was the current situation we are walking into. We were completely caught off guard. To further this, our children went an entire school year without a permanent teacher. How does anyone in this room, or even worse, our superintendent, think this is acceptable, especially coming out of all the learning loss that took place during the previous pandemic years? I thought you guys were here to offer the best for our children in our community. I would have expected some communication, honesty, transparency, and at least an apology. How would you, as a parent, like it if any one of your students had a year like this? We didn't know who was going to be teaching in the classroom, how long they would be around, and how to communicate with them. It was awful. This was below satisfactory. It was embarrassing. Mr. Van Schaack, I expect you to do better. I expect you to be honest instead of complacently telling parents what they would like to hear. You didn't know this was my situation when I spoke to you in the fall. You told me that there were only a few teacher spots that needed to be filled, but it wasn't going to be a problem. Well, it was a problem, and I hope no other student and their family has to go another year without the simple communication and honesty. Lastly, I want to know why it was never considered to hire someone for this position outside the district who actually brought some years of experience of being a superintendent. LVJUSD could be achieving and progressing differently if that was considered, because ultimately, who is missing out? It's our students. Thank you.
Yep. We have Mike Carell-Feichner, followed by, I'm sorry? Followed by Ron Carell-Feichner.
Here I am back again. Okay, you can let the clock start rolling. And we're talking about pronouns. My pronouns are he, his, him. And besides that, it's me, myself, and I. And I have a little more respect for me, myself, and I, because 65 years I went by the pronoun as you. I was gay from the day I was born. I was not indoctrinated in him. It was in my genes. Even my mother's late older brother was gay, and he was in the closet. And he went to his deathbed in the closet. And we talked about, there's been talk about in God we trust, and the Bible in the school. I just learned that at East Avenue Middle School, there is a copy of the Bible in the library. There are no books in that library that has pictures of porn or whatever. And I don't know where these people are coming up with these goddamn answers. I'm angry. I'm sorry. I am tired of all this goddamn hate. That's all it is. Anybody who says he's a Christian and he hates is not a goddamn Christian.
Sir, the one thing I would ask you, don't use the Lord's name in vain.
Okay.
Please. Please.
So anyway, I made my point. I lost my train of thought. So anyway, for 65 years, I was in my closet against myself. I neither heterosexual or homosexual until even a magical moment happened. I mentioned it last time at the board meeting. But anyway, Ron and I were married in a Christian church. It's called Asbury United Methodist Church. And nowhere in the New Testament does it say anything about it. Jesus loves all the children of the world, all races. And I remember singing that in Sunday school, that little song, Jesus loves all the children of the world. And he does today. And I guess I can't think of anything more. I wanted to say a whole lot more. I lost my cool. I'm sorry. I apologize. And I don't know, last time somebody mentioned that there was a bunch of the people with the rainbow flags in the back saying rude things. I was here. I didn't hear anything about that. And I don't know. And half of these other things are nothing but lies. And the true beginning of Pride Month began on June 28th, 1969, at the Stonewall uprising in New York City. 54 years ago, this June 28th. So, anyway.
That is your time, sir.
Okay.
That's your time.
I remember what I was going to say. It was about.
Well, maybe next time, sir.
Parents needed to know.
Let's move to Ron Carell Feichner, followed by Joanne Morrison.
Sorry, I just want to find my notes really quick. If I can. There they are. Okay. Thank you. And everybody can hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So happy Pride Month, everybody. I want to say that. And people, just a couple things before I go to my notes I prepared. Pride means inclusivity. Pride means joy. Pride is for everybody, not just for gay people, not just for trans people. Pride is for straight people, too. If you're an ally to the LGBTQ community, you can celebrate Pride. And Pride has nothing to do with pornography, has nothing to do with S&M, any of that. That is not what Pride is about. So there's that one question. Other thing I want to say is those people who basically want religion taught in the school, I work at East Avenue, I work in a public school. We do not teach religion because we're not supposed to. If you don't like the way public school is taught, take your kids to a church school. That's why churches have their own schools. They can do what they want. If you want your kid to learn religion, take them to a church school. Don't put them in a public school. Now I'll go to my notes. As people have said, the mothers, I'm here because I was so offended by some of the anti-LGBTQ remarks made last time. I'm not a pedophile. I'm an employee of the LVJUSD school district, and I am gay. So as someone has said, the Mothers for Liberty has actually been designated by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group because of their anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. So just so you know, when they're talking, they're considered a hate group by some parts of our society. So take that into account, folks. And they keep on talking about indoctrination. What do groups like MFL mean? No educators in this district are indoctrinating any kids. I am not passing out handbooks in classes saying, here's how you can be gay, here's how you can be trans. That isn't happening. We're not having pornographic books in our class. We're not doing any of that. I think I figured out what they mean by indoctrination. They don't want kids to know that we exist. I heard about a school that got rid of a history book just because it mentioned Harvey Milk, who died fighting for civil rights. There's a Navy ship named after Harvey Milk, and he was a gay man. And they took that book out because he was mentioned in it. Indoctrination to them means they don't want their kids to know we exist. Well, I'm sorry, but those of us who are gay, we're not going in the closet, we're not going to shrink away and hide, and we do exist, and your kids need to know we exist. And if you don't want your kids to know we exist, then I'm sorry, you are homophobic. So admit it. I hear people say, I'm not homophobic. Well, you know what? It's kind of like we had a certain president who said, you know, I'm the less racist person I know. If you have to say you're not racist, you're probably racist. If you're saying you're not homophobic, you know what? You might be homophobic. So if you don't want your kids to know I exist, if you don't want your kids to know I have a husband, that men can marry men, and if someone came up to me, a kid said, Mr. Ron, you're gay? Yes, I am. Is it okay to be gay? Yes, it is, because it's the way you were born, and you are worthwhile, and those people who are trying to make gay people not exist, it's hurting our youth. they're being sent a message that they don't matter, they're not worthwhile,
time,
and
sir.
that is wrong.
That's your time, sir.
And thank you, board, for standing up for LGBTQ rights.
Thank you.
And thank you for all
That's
you
your
do.
time, sir. Thank you. Okay. Joanne Morrison. And Ms. Morrison, you have the honor of being the final speaker on public comment tonight.
Good evening, President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Van Schaack, and Cabinet. I'm speaking this evening to express gratitude and to support you in passing the upcoming resolution to recognize June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month. This comes at a time when anti-LGBTQ+ and homophobic propaganda are on the rise nationally and in our own community, as you've already heard this evening. As board members and staff, you hear a steady drumbeat of this hateful rhetoric at every meeting, while claiming victimhood and hiding behind phony religious dogma, and I say that as a Christian woman. The proponents of this rhetoric attack LGBTQ+ students and their allies. They attack us on social media. They attack us at social and educational gatherings. And they attack us in the very hallway right outside the doors of this meeting room. But we will not be intimidated, and we will not be silenced. Truth will always win over hateful rhetoric. We thank all of you for standing strong, following the law, and not being swayed by the outlandish propaganda being presented for public consumption. We support you 100% in passing the Pride Month resolution. One other matter I'd like to mention that Ron mentioned, the Southern Poverty Law Center has listed the so-called parents' rights group, Moms for Liberty, as an anti-government extremist organization in the center's latest annual report. It is listed as the most prominent of 12 extremist anti-student inclusion groups mobilizing to attack public education, ban books, and remove any curriculum that contains discussions of race, discrimination, and LGBTQ+ identities. This listing puts the group in the same category as anti-government organizations like the Oath Keepers, the Three Percenters, and the John Birch Society. And now, Alameda County has its own chapter of this group, based right here in Livermore, headed by a woman who addresses this board at every meeting. This group is funded by partisan money and has partisan aims. This group is not about the rights of parents who really care about the well-being of students. It is about grabbing as much authoritarian power as possible to further partisan ends. It is about controlling and destroying public education as we know it. Make no mistake, although liberty is in its title, Moms for Liberty wants to take away the liberty of every LGBTQ+ student and parents who support their LGBTQ+ kids. Beware the hateful propaganda of this group and do not be taken in by its phony claims.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment, and so we're closing public comment. Thank you all for taking the general reminder and maintaining civility here, and it's nice to be able to hear everyone's opinion on this stuff. We're going to move into 8.2, and this is correspondence. Formal written correspondence to the Board of Education shall be acknowledged if received by our board or in the superintendent's office by 4 p.m. the day before our meeting. Formal written correspondence received after the cutoff time will generally be acknowledged at our following meeting. Just note, it's a board electronic communications received via the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District website by accessing the formal written correspondence to the Board of Education. All fields and links completed and verified shall be treated as written correspondence. I'd ask our clerk, Trustee Pruso, to summarize any correspondence received.
Thank you, Mr. President. Laura Felch, a community member, commented in regards to being in favor of keeping the IB program. Aaron Haycraft, a community member, commented in regards to his appreciation for the board supporting the LGBTQ+ community and is looking for ideas on how to keep a safe speaking environment at board meetings. The following board correspondence summaries were added after the agenda was published, but before 4 p.m. the day before this meeting. Formal written correspondences received after the cutoff time will be acknowledged at the following meeting. Trenton Thompson, a Granada High School student, commented in regards to being thankful that the board included a resolution in support of LGBTQ plus students and staff and the attack by political extremist and nationally funded hate group. Tara Ham, parent, commented in regards to the deeply uncomfortable feeling she has because our district is promoting a month celebrating some people's sexual identities over others. Joanne Duncan, community member, commented in regards to parents having the fundamental right to know what is being taught at schools. And Mary Fake, parent, commented in regards to the concern she has over curricula and that the public school is not a place for political, social, ideological activism, no matter what the topic. And that concludes the board correspondence.
Thank you very much. We're going to move into section 9. These are our information discussion items. And I'd ask Mr. Van Schaack if you would introduce 9.1, please. And a reminder to folks that we've moved 12.2 as our next item to 9.2. Sir.
All right, then I'd like to introduce Assistant Superintendent Melissa Thiede. She's going to provide to us an overview or strategic planning committee update.
Thank you, Superintendent Van Schaack. Forgive me, I have to adjust some slides here. And I would also like to invite up our coordinator of equity and early literacy, Sherry Johnston, and Dr. Robin Fisher. Sorry, if we're going to have some exit, I can wait. All right, we are here this evening to present a report from our Strategic Planning Committee, and I'd like to give you a little bit of information in preparation for the details of this report. So highlights from this report really focus on why we pulled this planning committee together, a little bit about our background and process, an outline of our proposed implementation plan, and some proposed next steps for the next school year. So the why behind this committee is the fact that not all of our students are achieving at their potential, and we know that when we revise and review our district data. And as a result, we contracted with RTF to help us facilitate the development of a strategic plan and to help provide support for our African American students at the high schools, particularly around the areas of social emotional support and college-going culture. A little more background, our district has multiple plans in place to support the needs of our most vulnerable students, such as our local control and accountability plan, our LCAP. Every school creates a school plan for student achievement, which aligns to our LCAP. We have an English learner master plan, and we also have an early literacy plan. And all of these plans are targeted at improving our student outcomes. A little more about the data that we reviewed in our Strategic Planning Committee. We reviewed our standardized assessments, the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, or the CASP, which our students take every spring. We looked at our local assessments, our student surveys, attendance, and also discipline data for our students. We had the pleasure to have our students participate in meetings 9 times from January to May and also take a college tour field trip to San Jose State University and Cal Berkeley. And the committee met we had 12 meetings from December through June. And I'm going to pass it over to Sherry to tell you a little bit more about that committee.
Thank you. We specifically chose participants from all over our organization as representatives. Oops, do I not have this on?
It's on. It's just the proximity. Turn it on one more time. There you go.
Sorry
It's
about that.
proximity. It's got to be about 6 inches from you at most.
Okay, how about that? Is that better?
Close.
Okay, sorry. We specifically chose participants from all over our organization as representatives on this planning committee, including classified staff, administrators from each level, district administrators, including Assistant Superintendent Thiede and Superintendent Van Schaack, and board members Drulin and Wong. We intentionally built this team to be comprehensive, thoughtful, and experienced. Next slide, please. As Ms. Thede noted earlier, we reviewed several points of data. The other steps the committee took included listening to a focus group of students and families, reviewed districts of similar makeup for comparison, developed organizational systematic framework and strategic planning, looked at our district goals and identified barriers, and began to create a plan to implement and progress monitor. We identified 3 types of success gaps. One is the achievement gap, and that refers to the difference in student group performance across multiple academic data points, including assessments and letter grades. We also looked at the relationship gap. That refers to the differences in student group performance across multiple social emotional, behavior, climate measures, including social emotional survey responses, suspension rates, and chronic absent rates. Thirdly, we looked at the opportunity gaps. That refers to the differences in student group access to key life-sustaining opportunities, such as a living wage job, high school graduation, obtaining college degrees, etc. These areas we identified are in alignment with our LCAP goals, which you will hear about in more depth later this evening. The work of the Strategic Planning Committee aligns across our previously mentioned plans in several areas as shown on this chart, such as in academic achievement, career and college readiness, school climate and culture, family and community partnerships, and staff capacity building. While there are several strategic actions, they operate in parallel and in support of other strategic actions defined in the district plans named on the left. Some of our proposed projects for year 1 of this 3-year plan include continued college and career focus for our African American high school students and to expand to include our Latino Hispanic students. We're also looking at expanding to younger students. Professional development for administrators is essential in building safe climate and culture on our sites. Fostering family outreach and engagement with intentionality is critical. Also, ongoing collaboration, strategic planning, and progress monitoring are key to the success and sustainability of this plan. Our interventions are specifically targeting existing staff and student needs. We do recognize the need to diversify workforce, and this would be part of the site and department priorities in addition to this plan. Here are the fundamental supports that the Strategic Planning Committee needs to implement. Continued district senior leadership, shared ownership between departments and sites, sustained and consistent oversight, data and fiscal resources, regular reporting to the community. This ends our report, and we'd be happy to take any questions from the board.
Thank you. We have no cards on this. We're going to close public comment. I entertain any questions. Trustee Drone?
I don't really have a, can you hear me? I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to say that I appreciated participating to the extent that I could, and addressing systemic inequities in schools is really hard, complex work, and I just appreciate the efforts to try to bring, when we all know that there's a problem and we want to address the problem, but how we go about doing that is really complex, and so I appreciate the effort to try to address that.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Prusso?
Yeah, I have a question. How are we monitoring progress? Like, what metrics are we using for that?
We would be looking at, depending on which particular effort that we're looking at, but we would be looking at the similar data that we had shared before with our academic data or our social emotional data or opportunity data, but we'd be looking at the different student populations to monitor the growth.
And then on the last slide, there's shared ownership between departments or sites. Could you explain what that means?
Well, I interpret that as in terms of having a collective understanding of the needs that our district has to meet the needs of all of our students. And so that would inform our decision-making process at both the sites as well as the district office.
So consistency.
Consistency.
Okay.
Yes.
And I can just sort of add on to that, that when we're looking at the goals of educating our students, It is often seen as the Department of Educational Services or Curriculum, but it's important for every department in our school district to understand that they play an important role in the success of our students. That goes to the maintenance department, the human resources department, the business department, every single child nutrition, every department plays an important role in the success of our students. So it's really about making sure we all understand how we contribute to achieving these outcomes collectively, that it's not just the responsibility of a single department, but it's our collective effort that's really going to help to move us forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Wong.
I was part of this committee, so I think I've asked all my questions and made all my comments there, but I want to thank Dr. Fisher and Ms. Johnston for your really amazing leadership of this process. We had 12 meetings from December to June, and every one of those was really well utilized. And this was really such a deep dive into identifying why we have these success gaps and to try to figure out how we can really close them. And so I really appreciated the process and the breadth of people involved at all levels of the district. And I'm hopeful that we can begin to make some progress on it and truly make a difference on this. And we'll only know as we track what happens. But I was very grateful for your leadership and for the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Guzman.
Yes, thank you. I may have missed it, but is this a multi-year tracking we're going to be working? And this is the next steps for next year, right?
Yes, we have a 3-year proposed plan.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And then also to Trustee Wong mentioned it a little bit, but just the 3 different types of success gaps. I think oftentimes many of us only look at achievement, and we miss the relationship and we miss the opportunity. So to see that this is much more holistic to one's success, and that we have different meanings of success as well. So I will be asking how I can further support, or I won't be asking, but yeah, just count on me to provide further support.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I have no questions on it, but Doctor, I would just like to give you the final word. Just let us know, how is it going in your professional expertise?
Well, thank you so much, and I'm glad to be here. And I have to first say that the district and the folks that really brought us together to begin to look very critically and thoughtfully at the needs of your students and what that looked like and meant is like no other, really, in the state that is being thoughtful about what students need, when they need it, and why they need it. And so the fact that you had as many folks as you did from departments and really from sites thinking about how best to do this work and being incredibly committed, having the commitment from your superintendent and your assistant and associate superintendent to be able to put the resources, time, human resource, to be thoughtful, critical about what it would take and what that looks like and means over those 3 areas, really sets you up for success. And to continue to, over a 3-year process, really begin to identify how will you monitor progress? What does that look like? It's built into the strategic plan. And again, we've been very thoughtful together as a unit of how best to ensure that all of the students that are identified as requiring additional supports receive them, and we're really careful and thoughtful about who is going to be responsible to ensure that that happens. So again, I'm very hopeful and have been very proud to be a part of this district's work and thinking about how best to support its students.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. All right, Mr. Van Schaack, this is going to be the reminder. This is the consent item 12.2 that's been moved up to 9.2.
That's correct. So this is a consent item, so the board can approach it in a way consistent with how we do our consent items at other meetings, just is going to be sooner.
Okay. Is there any introduction or any context that you can maybe introduce the topic on it? And then we have a couple cards on this.
Yeah, just as we've done for several years now, we pass a resolution each June that recognizes and celebrates the month of June as LGBTQ plus Pride Month. And in keeping with that commitment that we've made to our community and to each other, we bring that forward once again this year.
Thank you very much. We have a couple speakers, so I would invite up Jackie Coda, please. And it's not on yet. Go ahead and hit it. You're on, and then just the proximity to make sure you're close enough. There you go.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We
All right,
can.
very good. In the Bible, demons refer to themselves as they, them, we, us. This proclamation highlights an invitation for collective introspection on fostering an environment of mutual respect and understanding. However, it raises question about the board and administration's decision to promote a divisive social agenda among children, all in the name of inclusivity. There's a growing concern about the negative consequences imposing the LGBTQ plus agenda on our youth. Recent examples such as the backlash faced by Bud Light and Target losing billions in revenue demonstrate the repercussions alienating consumers through controversial and potentially harmful products masked as inclusive. Every individual deserves respect, dignity, and equal treatment. However, what we are witnessing today is not about promoting tolerance and acceptance. It is about imposing a divisive social agenda on impressionable young minds. Despite its claim of inclusivity, the agenda can sometimes be exclusionary in its approach. We've seen it here in these meetings. It is essential to acknowledge that the education and upbringing of our children lies primarily within the hands of parents and guardians, and there is a growing infringement on the parental rights as educational institutions promote social agendas under the guise of inclusion while harboring questionable messaging and conduct that not everyone subscribes to. This intrusion undermines the principles and convictions of numerous families who would retain the freedom to impart their own moral values to their children. Exploiting mental illness statistics should not be used as justification for coercing individuals to conform to someone else's subjective perception or narrative. By emphasizing the promotion of LGBTQ agenda within the educational institutions, we inadvertently contribute to division and anxiety among children. Designating a specific LGBTQ month for recognition in government schools prioritizes the rights and experiences of one group over others, resulting in a divisive and exclusionary environment. It is crucial for public schools to adopt a neutral position, enabling students to independently explore and develop their own perspectives, free from external influences. The concept of pride, particularly in the context of LGBT community, is often portrayed as celebration of diversity and inclusivity. However, it is important to critically examine whether pride events truly embody these ideals. Pride in its current form tends to focus on a specific group's identity and experiences. The iconic Old Glory proudly waving outside every government site, symbolizing unity for each and every individual, is a symbol that unites us all, regardless of our differences, and represents the shared values and aspirations that define our great nation. Recognizing June as Pride Month in public schools is a violation of equal rights to educational opportunities, as it creates an exclusionary environment for straight students by prioritizing and highlighting a specific group's experiences. Thank you.
And we have Emily Wilson. She'll be followed by Alex Izares.
Hello again. Good evening. Thank you for listening to us. And thank you for supporting our LGBTQ plus students and recognizing June officially as LGBTQ plus Pride Month. I will be stating again some key findings from the Trevor Project's 2023 National Survey for LGBTQ young people. 41% of LGBTQ young people seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year. Young people who are transgender, non-binary, and/or people of color reported higher rates than their peers. Roughly half of transgender and non-binary young people reported being verbally harassed at school because people thought they were LGBTQ. And as we know, 184 Granada students reported being discriminated against due to their sexual orientation last year. 184 students, and there's 180 days in the school year. 14% of LGBTQ young people attempted suicide in the past year, including nearly 1 in 5 trans and non-binary young people. Again, allyship is not comfortable. Respect, It's also why Bud, whatever the beer company is, and Target is losing profits. Allyship is not comfortable. It's not going to make everyone happy. This is about saving lives, and that's it. All we're asking is to exist. That's all we want. To be recognized as who we are and exist as who we are in a safe environment. I had the privilege to come out in college as queer, although I was outed by some peers and a teacher while I was figuring out my identity and going through our school system. I think a lot of our community members are showing ignorance about queerness and transness, and I would implore them to attend some local events that are for the queer community and also maybe meet some actual queer people in real life or real trans people. Because my friends who are trans and queer hardly ever are getting hormone therapy. They're not getting surgeries. That's not what transness is. Transness is how you identify. It has nothing to do with the sex you were born identified, assigned as birth. It has nothing to do with how you express yourself, and it also has nothing to do with what pronouns you use. You can be trans without changing anything about yourself.
30 seconds.
We are not going back in the closet. We're not going away. We have been here since the beginning of time, and queerness is beautiful. Happy Pride Month to all of you. Thank you so much for everything.
Yep. Alex Izares, followed by Aaron Haycraft. Haycraft, I'm sorry.
I really didn't have anything planned for this section, so bear with me as I get through my very quick notes. I have to say these board meetings have turned into a spectacle. We are dedicating a month to promoting sexual activity and body mutilation. I can't sit here and pretend this community is loving and accepting when a teacher in your district intimidated community members at a rally. His spouse waving flags basically in people's faces in this meeting and gave the middle finger to my child. It's ridiculous to say you're targeted when parents speaking want nothing but the best for their child and say nothing to those in this community. I don't know any person who has sat up here and specifically targeted any one person. Yet my child, as well as myself, have been actively targeted by teachers and community members in this district. I want to be very clear, we are very aware not every member of this community is indoctrinating our children. But when you're pushing your ideologies and beliefs on children in the class, as your teacher's contract specifically says not to, a member, however, shall not utilize the instructional position to attempt to influence students with personal, political, and/or religious views. That is indoctrination. Look at those that are detransitioning. Look up a woman named Chloe Cole. You are actively promoting body mutilation, and I'm asking you to look into what you're promoting. Did you know when a child wants to transition, insurance will pay for that? But when they want to detransition, where are the insurance companies? Where are all the LGBT advocates? Nowhere. Also, Trevor Project stats are skewed. We talk about inclusivity. We should be inclusive to all, not to some. When are we going to keep school a place for education, not for politics? When has any person come up here speaking said anything hateful to a community member? Yet here we are being called bigots, hateful, and intolerant, all coming from members of mostly Livermore Indivisible, which is supposed to be a kind and loving group. I'd like to be clear, Moms for Liberty is not a hate group, and if you want to talk about a hate group, we can about some of these people in this room. I think some of us need to go back and learn what being a Christian means, maybe read our Bibles, because it doesn't mean being hateful and calling people homophobic bigots. The people in this room are very hateful, and it's sad that this is what our board meetings have turned into. It has become a spectacle where we are talking about Moms for Liberty, a group,
that want to fight for parental rights and fight for children and their education, and you're coming up here and using a board meeting to speak about people. I have never once used my time to speak about a person in this room. Not once. Not one community member. I have addressed board members, maybe our superintendent, but people are actively coming up here, calling parents hateful bigots to the community. This is damaging, and it's very sad this is what our board has turned into. Thank you.
Next speaker is Aaron Haycraft.
All right. You ready?
Yes.
Cool.
Let's go.
Awesome. Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Van Schaack, President Bueno, and esteemed school board members. I'd like to say Happy Pride, as it is June. Last meeting was quite difficult for me. There were multiple occasions where I did not feel safe. It hurt me when people called out the LGBTQ plus community as they were full of pedophiles and groomers. That is not me at all. The hateful and hurtful comments are being made without getting to know me and my community. Those closest to me will 100% say that without a doubt, I'm not either one of these things. The labeling of an entire community does more harm than it does good. It shows ignorance and shows that there are a lot of misunderstandings. I know I mentioned a few meetings ago that I'm not the arts and crafts gay. Here's a little bit about me. I'm an avid sports fanatic. Love the Giants. I watch the Warriors and Sharks when I can. I'm a huge Cleveland Browns fan. Yes, those Cleveland Browns. Let's not go there. I blame my grandfather and my dad for that one. I love collecting vinyl records. I have over 1,000 albums in my collection, and as well as a lot of radio shows from the 80s. Casey Kasem's American Top 40s are some of my favorites in the collection. Given a date between 1981 and 1987, I can pretty much tell you what was number one that week because that's what decides to stick in my head. I've seen every Tom and Jerry so many times that I can give a brief history on it, the history about it, the animators, and everything else. The same goes for Looney Tunes. I say these things to show that I'm like anyone else. I have unique hobbies and other items in my life that make me happy. The only thing that makes me different is that I love a man instead of a woman. I will not be here next week because I have a previous engagement. To the school board, thank you for standing up against homophobic and transphobic rhetoric that is taking place here. I'm so thankful that the Pride Month proclamation will be happening. It makes me feel proud to live where the school board will defend all its students. Last night, the city of Livermore passed a similar proclamation for Pride Month, and they put up a pride flag outside City Hall. I'm glad the city and the school board are in full agreement there. I hope everyone in this room has, and watching online as well, has a wonderful summer. I'll see you all in August. Remember, love always wins. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jennifer Hayes.
Hello again. I just wanted to remind myself and all of us that one of the critical American founding principles of our democracy is the separation of church and state. This comes from the Establishment Clause in the First Amendment, and it's felt a bit at times like we're getting into theological debates here with that. And as a debate coach, I would have coached my students that that was immaterial to the discussions here. Because we are a public school, a public institution, we have state guidelines, we have the U.S. Constitution, we have federal guidelines that we follow. And because we are a public school, we need to include all people. You, them, it's an us in public education. And so when people are protesting having a month that's dedicated to LGBTQ, I would ask them, well, are you going to erase Black history? There's a month for that. Are you going to erase women from history? There's a month for that. What about Asian and Pacific Islanders and Native and Alaskan members? There are months for that as well. There's a month to recognize people with handicaps or disabilities. So I think that that's part of including everyone. And then in terms of religion, well, what we do teach about, we don't teach religion, we teach about religions, world religions, We teach the history of them. We do some comparative things. And then when we're forging relationships with our student, we want them to include that if that's an important part of their identity. And so we accept that. I've had Sikh, Buddhist, Muslim, Jain, Orthodox Christian, Jewish, Christian of all flavors, students in my years here in Livermore. And so I just think we need to remember that there is a separation of church and state, and public education needs to reflect that. I would also, if I may, go back to the strategic plan, and I think that one of the groups that you're missing is the LGBTQ students, because clearly there is a bit of a hostile environment context for them in our town. And I think that we do need to be able to help them so that there are not more statistics about losing those students. So thank you for declaring this month part of the LVJUSD district. And also,
20 seconds.
Yeah, let's make sure that we honor the fact that we are a public school and there is separation of church and state. Thank you.
Next, we have Ron Correll Feichner.
Is this on again? Okay, cool.
It is.
Thank you for letting me speak again, board. And I just wanted to say again, back up other people have said, thank you for proclaiming this Pride Month. Thank you for supporting our LGBTQ students. I feel like I just threw that out there, and they're really important. If we make it appear that gay people don't exist, then every student, a youth who's trans, gay, lesbian, questioning whatever, will feel like they don't exist. They're not worthwhile. When I was a student in high school, I did not see a lot of gay identity people on TV. I didn't know of any gay teachers. I was in the closet, and it made me feel like I didn't exist. And we can't allow students in this district to feel that way. As an educator, I wouldn't stand for that. I want to say thank you for letting us all get up and say our 3 minutes. Even though some of it is based in misinformation, I will say homophobia, because I think if you don't want us to exist and you don't want your kids to know exist, that's a homophobic point of view. I'm sorry if you don't feel that way, but from a gay person, it is. But everybody can say what they want. You listen to us, but you stay strong and you support your LGBTQ students and your LGBTQ staff like me. Thank you. And with the educator just came up here, thank you. And I do agree we need to do a little bit more work with our LGBTQ students. Even as an LGBTQ employee, I've felt homophobic views, and I won't say certain students, but I've been made fun of by students because I am gay and I'm out. But I know they're teenagers, I know they're still developing, they're growing, and a lot of them might come from home. But we just need to make sure we watch out for LGBTQ students and employees and make sure we have a safe environment for everybody. Also, again, we do not teach religion in school. We teach comparative religions. We talk about different religions. We've talked about religion in our class, but we don't say one religion is better than the other. We just say in history, this religion happened, this religion happened. Yes, in history, gay people have existed, and we're going to continue to exist, and that is not going to be whitewashed out of the history books. We're not going to go crawl back in the closet. We are not going to be made to feel ashamed of who we are, how we were born, who we love. And students should not feel that way either. Trans, queer, transgender students should not feel that way either. That leads to suicide, drug use, dropping out of school, homelessness, all those kind of things. And again, I just want to say thank you for being strong, and thank you for supporting your LGBTQ students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Pride.
Our final speaker on this matter is Catherine Koziemski. Evening.
Good evening. Good evening, President Bueno, Superintendent Van Schaack, and board, and community. I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but after hearing public comment, I felt compelled. I was raised Catholic and have my master's in religious studies from Santa Clara University. I used to teach high school religious studies. And I want to speak to the religiosity I hear from some folks, even though LVJUSD is a public school, and I do not believe Christian curriculum and teaching should be in the classroom. I can tell you how the few references that are in the scriptures condemning homosexual behavior, and of the estimated 5 to 7 references in the scripture, most are actually condemning rape and abuse of children. Jesus never mentions homosexuality in the gospel. Some evangelical Christians, especially those here we've heard from, would have you believe it fills most of the Bible. It's simply not an overwhelming concern in Scripture. But even if it was, that does not matter. It also would not matter if it was in the Quran, the Vedas, or the Bhagavad Gita, or any other sacred text from any other religious institution, because this is a public and not a Christian or religious school district. I'm grateful for the sexual education my children have received thus far. I'm grateful for the way it involves parents to have these difficult conversations, as uncomfortable and squeamish as it makes my children. I'm grateful that all students asking question exploring, as we do in adolescence, know that the subjects of sexuality are not taboo and there are safe adults they can talk to. I'm grateful that even though I know I tell my kids they can tell me anything, sometimes kids simply don't, and I'm glad they have other safe adults to talk to. Students can't learn if students don't feel safe. I've had a steep learning curve as a parent. I think we all do as parents. My kids' friends have chosen new names and pronouns. This is not something I experienced in high school. And I knew along the way, even if I had questions, my job was to respect them, to love them, to support them. I thank the board for extending that care and support to all of our children, whether they are questioning, whether they are secure, whether they're exploring or not, by recognizing LGBTQ folks this Pride Month. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we're going to close the public comment section on this. This is a consent item that we vote on. So we'll, how are we going to do this procedurally? We moved it up so we can speak about it, and let's leave it, if there's not any objection, we'll leave it in the consent items in terms of, because we're in the discussion, so it'd be difficult to vote on it. Well, I guess we can. We just procedural, we'll just vote on it. So, yeah, so I'd make a motion on the adaptation of what was 12.2, which we moved up to 9.2 on the staff recommendation.
I second.
We have a motion and by Bueno, second by Wong, to move the resolution number 084 for 22-23, recognizing and celebrating the month of June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month. Any discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Trustee Guzman.
Aye.
Trustee Druin.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Trustee Wong.
Aye.
President Bueno.
Aye. That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And yeah, we've had a couple requests to take a short break, so we're going to take a small break at 2100 hours. We're going to break for 10 minutes, and we'll reconvene at 2110. Okay, it's 2110. We're going to reconvene, open session. And I believe our next item is 9.3, and I'm going to move over to Mr. Van Schaack under the premise of no dead airtime. And now we're going to move to Mr. Van Schaack, if you would be kind enough to introduce 9.3.
I am excited to introduce Katie Krause, our Director of Child Nutrition. She is going to present to you the long-awaited Child Nutrition Annual Report. We thank her for being flexible with the last board meeting, sitting through it all, and then coming back today. So,
absolutely. Good evening, Board President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Van Schaack. For that opening, thank you. It was very super. Cabinet and community. I'm Katie Krause, the Director of Child Nutrition Services, and I'm here to share updates on our department operations and the district's student wellness policy. This evening, the first part of my presentation will focus on an overview of the California Universal Meal Mandate. I'm going to address what changes we've made to our operations to facilitate its implementation, as well as the challenges that we have overcome. I will cover a comparison of the student participation from before the pandemic and after the mandate was initiated. I will review our initiatives to keep student satisfaction and participation at the forefront of our efforts. And during the second half of my presentation, I will update you on our LVJUSD student wellness policy. Starting with this school year, 2022-2023, California became the first state in the nation to implement a statewide universal meals program for school children. California's Universal Meals Program, dubbed the Universal Meals Mandate, builds on the foundations of the federal National School Lunch Program, as well as the School Breakfast Program. It requires a nutritionally adequate breakfast and lunch to be offered to all students each school day. And so that means that we must offer it. They don't have to take it, but it's at no cost to them or their families. We've made several adjustments to our department operations in the past few years to align with food service industry standards and to facilitate providing food to our high volume of students both now and into the future. We have re-implemented student taste testing this past spring, and it will continue in the fall on Taste Test Tuesdays. Over the past couple of years, we have purchased heating, cooling, and freezing equipment, and we're also very excited to have replaced our aging vans with 2 new refrigerated trucks for food transportation. We increased the number of production kitchens from 2 to 4 within the district, and this has enabled us to spread out the work and bring food closer to each of the school sites. And finally, I'm very proud that we were able to reorganize our kitchen staff by creating a tiered organizational structure to optimize our operations. However, as the largest restaurant in town, producing and serving nearly 6,000 meals a day, we are not immune to the challenges with food access that we all have faced individually, but on a much, much larger scale. Nonetheless, we have continued to elevate our purchasing habits to decrease the impact of external factors on our ordering. But a few of these challenges include that lettuce virus we all experienced this past winter resulted in extreme shortages and an almost 200% price markup. Drought, wildfires, and the recent flooding all around the Greater Bay Area and our farming communities has really impacted produce availability and pricing. We also experienced shortages in parts for equipment that we all need for repairs, and in the availability of necessary cardboard carrying trays for our youngest students to put hot food on. Believe it or not, that was a pretty big one. And there were vendor logistics disruptions in transportation, including not enough drivers for trucks making deliveries at some points this past year. Even getting pizza dough and pancakes, and believe me, these are important, for students was challenging as the political events in Ukraine have impacted the world's wheat supply. Yet, despite all of these challenges, we were still able to increase our meal participation. These next few slides give you an idea of how much we've grown by providing longitudinal data to show our progress after implementing the universal meal mandate. Both charts compare student participation from August through December between 2018 in the aqua green color and 2022 in the blue school years. Here you can see we had about a 30% growth in student participation, which in practical terms is an increase of 90,000 lunches to almost 375,000 lunches over a 5-month period between those 2 years. This slide also shows data from the same August through December of the same years, 2018 and 2022. Of note, starting in the year after the holidays, of the year 2021 and 2022 school year, we initiated breakfast service 1 school at a time at the remaining 9 schools in our district that we had not been previously serving breakfast at. So the almost 75% increase in student participation is a reflection of both more schools participating in breakfast service and meals now being offered at no cost. So together, this is approximately a 36% increase in the number of meals collectively. This final graphic compares the average daily student participation from before the pandemic, specifically October 2018, with after the universal meal mandate was implemented in October of 2022. While there have definitely been ups and downs, the average student participation in this particular sample month was 11%, but you can also see there was a change in enrollment with that participation change. However, we also expect there to be a significant increase as we focus more on student satisfaction and promoting the no-cost breakfast and lunch meals within our school district. Moving forward, we will have a continued focus on student satisfaction. We will be prioritizing relationships with local vendors to increase fresh foods to our doors and increasing our fresh food options. We will launch a no-cost meals campaign to our community. We continue to explore grant opportunities for our department. And to enable us to achieve all of these initiatives, we have and will continue to partner with local universities to host dietetic interns who bring new research-based ideas to our department and our district. And finally, I'd like to create a 5-year plan to address the needs for kitchen renovations and ongoing kitchen replacement of our aging infrastructure. Moving on, for the second half of my presentation, I'd like to transition to updating you on the school district student wellness policy and regulation 5030. It is a comprehensive program that puts into practice the link between student mental and physical health and the education and interest in promoting healthy eating and physical activity among our students. Our local student wellness policy is part of the Healthy, Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010 and an update of the Richard B. Russell School Lunch Act of 1946. As such, our department, the Child Nutrition Department, is audited both by the federal and the state level through the National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs, which I just spoke about. There are 3 components of the health established in the 2017 local school wellness policy, which is the most recent one that we have. In each of these components, there is a dual focus of both education and opportunity to practice positive decision-making at our schools. Now, especially in light of the events of recent years, the mental health component of this trio is a work in progress. And although there is a movement to create an independent mental health policy within the district, some implemented opportunities for students already include a kid connection at elementary schools, establishing wellness centers at the middle and high school campuses, counselors to support tiered mental health needs, youth mental health first aid courses, which have over 700 staff and parents have become certified through, and teen mental health first aid that's focused on 11th graders. Based on the policy that we have written from 2017, our goals have focused on nutrition, physical activity, and educating the public on our responsibilities as a district to provide an environment and education that supports healthy eating and physical exercise. Starting on the left, from a nutrition standpoint, we are compliant, meeting meal standards through the NSLP and SBP programs, National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast programs that I mentioned earlier, as well as keeping our school sites advertising in line with healthy food options. However, we have room for improvement in promoting healthy eating outside of the mealtime. For example, in donations and purchased foods for celebrations, rewards, and fundraising opportunities. And we also have room for improvement in educating our students on how nutrition plays a key role in their daily lives. Next, we are fully compliant providing students with opportunities for physical activity from recess, sports, PE, and to run clubs at many schools. Finally, an area we could focus on for our public is in posting applicable information on state laws and district policy and regulations regarding all aspects of student wellness. Our next steps for the Health and Wellness Committee are to update the policy and regulations, which will be happening over this next 6 to 12 months. Then we'll be creating new goals based on where we are with our current wellness guidelines. And finally, as we did for this review, we will assess our progress and report it back to you. This concludes my presentation, and thank you for this opportunity to update you on both our department operation and the district's school wellness policy. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have from this information.
Thank you very much. We have no comment cards, so we're going to close public comment on this, and we'll begin with Trustee Prusso.
Yeah, I just want to commend you. I know that it's been really challenging to have to kind of really ramp up the nutrition and our meals for our students. And I know it's been challenging, and I just appreciate that we haven't had any glitches that I know of, people would let us know because the food. Also, I just also wanted to say that I'm on the Health and Wellness Committee, and all of the people who attend the Health and Wellness Committee, I think I'm just really amazed and impressed with the work that they put into. We have been discussing mental health a lot, and obviously for obvious reasons, and I appreciate how much effort is going into that as well. And I think we've made also a lot of progress in that area in the last few years. So I just appreciate that report and the progress, and hopefully just continue to see more. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Guzman.
Thank you. 2 questions. So I noticed that you're looking for child nutrition grant opportunities. So just because I see a lot of grants too, like what should I be looking for?
We look for things that mostly fit the populations that we serve. At the moment, we have some grants for equipment and for scratch cooking based on percentage from the state, which we have received already.
Okay.
So
for equipment and
fresh produce.
Fresh
and
food.
fresh
Okay, that's what that means.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
Thank you. And then the second question I have is, I know that required to provide while there's a school day and school is in session. Is there any room, or how do we support students during summers?
We do. Yeah, we do provide students meals during summer school. The state does require that we do. If summer school is in session, then we do provide them with meals. Based on where we are available or we are serving and having summer school this summer, we are providing breakfast and lunch at those sites. Sometimes we are able to provide to the community. This year, because of where our schools that are open, that's not something we're able to provide this year, unfortunately.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate the framing that we are the biggest restaurant in town. I think something like that's important to kind of think about and to grapple with, and just appreciate all the hard work that goes into being that. And then secondly, I'm going to quote one of my colleagues, Dr. Neufeld, who likes to say, you can't address Bloom without addressing Maslow. And the idea is Bloom's taxonomy is going from, different types of learning, from remembering up to analyzing. And you can't address that without addressing Maslow's hierarchy needs. Kids that are hungry aren't in a position to remember or get up to analyzing. So I think that the work is really important. And I know that every time I get a text that there are, food packages available, I think I'm really glad that we're doing that, because there's a lot of families that really need it. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Wong?
Also, just thank you to you and to your team I know it's a big lift to provide so many meals twice a day to all of these kids, but especially because it is free to everyone. It's really hard to estimate, I know, how many will be taken each day, and I'm sure it really varies depending on what the offering is that day. And so this may sound like a joke, but it's a serious question. The middle schoolers at Joe Mitchell want to know what that pizza is because they love it. And it's super popular, and they say it's the best pizza in town. So it's a serious question. Like, where does that pizza come from?
can get back to you on the brand name that it is. Of course, it comes from our vendor. We use 2 or 3 different brands. Like I mentioned, we have a hard time getting pizza dough. So it's 2 or 3 different brands of pizza, actually.
Oh, okay, that's
I
interesting,
mean,
because
the wheat supply was
it's being made there.
The wheat supply was a serious problem. We did not have pizza for a couple of weeks, and it was difficult.
Okay, well, that's a helpful answer. Thank you.
But I can get back to you on the brands.
And thanks for coming back.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Trustee Wong. One suggestion on the grant application stuff, we have an advocacy firm that works with the district, and they're quite active, and I know that this and mental health and all tie into that in terms of some opportunities at a national level. So utilizing them or working with them, they seem to be, they've done quite well for us as a district. And also when you're talking about the 5-year, I love the way you did the package. Like it's everything, 2 tiers on the presentation, but you hit a lot of stuff, and you did it right on point. On your 5-year plan, I didn't hear anything about like DelVal, because I know we do a lot of emphasis on the culinary opportunities, and with Diane Russell. And I don't know how much overlap there is with that, but so that we're not duplicating or, I love the fact that we have that culinary opportunity, and Diane Russell does a great job. So it'd just be nice to see if they're not dovetailed already.
We do work together. We don't overlap too far, but we work together when we can.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I also appreciate the full circle approach, because I think all too often there's a couple things. I don't think that the average person in town understands the food insecurities and the level in this town. And I say that from a perspective of I'm just a single coach at a school, but we do meals for kids, and hundreds of them we've done. And in that, we have kids that it usually was 15-year-old, 16-year-old kids that have never had a hot breakfast and don't know what some of the items are. They're like, is that scrambled? I mean, they don't know that. And the first time you see that, it's kind of astonishing. But food insecurity is a real issue. And this is one of the most difficult kind of type of communities to identify it, because there's pockets that are unidentified, and people's internal pride prevents them from seeking help. So the programs that you've mentioned, where there's food boxes, as Trustee Drone has mentioned, when there's things like that, sometimes it's just a kid being hungry, and other times it's because they're hungry because they go home and there's nothing there. So I really appreciate that. And the full circle approach, where mental health and nutrition and physical activity, even our athletics and all that, all tie together. And I think that's the proper approach, and I really appreciate you bringing it like that and presenting it as such. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
No further questions? Thank you. And again, from all of us, thank you for holding over and coming back.
Okay, moving on, I'd like to invite Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, Melissa Thiede, to give us a comprehensive look at the LCAP, which will include the public hearing. But this is a culmination, really, of a year's worth of work and indicates district priorities.
Thank you, Superintendent Van Schaack, and good evening again, President Bueno, members of the board and cabinet. This is a legally compliant element of our LCAP approval process, which is our public hearing. And so many of these things you may have seen, but there are some required elements, so I'll go through them a little quickly. But the goals and needs and actions addressing college and career readiness, that is what this LCAP is for. It's to make sure that we are giving focused attention to our low-income English learner and foster youth students. And so throughout, those are our unduplicated students, and that is the targeted audience for this presentation. So the required elements for the LCAP public hearing include the 22-23 budget overview for parents, which is a part of the LCAP itself, the LCAP update. We have some action tables, which are in the attachment, and our LCAP federal addendum, and the instructions for the LCAP. These are all required elements. Here's some information you have seen before, but it gives you an idea as we talk about those unduplicated students, exactly what our student demographic information is, and it's there for you on this slide. As always, we function under the LVJUSD framework for success with multi-tiered system of supports to support all students. And we do believe our district is a destination district. Our student, staff, and community do join together to build a bright future for our students. That has been, and I believe is still true today. So our local control funding formula is a model that the state uses to calculate and tell us what our money is, how much money they're going to give us. And it shifts funding decisions from the state level back to school districts. And once again, it provides base funding and then additional supplemental funds for our identified high needs students, English learners, low income, and foster youth students. This is an overview of our entire LCFF funding calculation. Down at the bottom, you'll see that supplemental highlighted in yellow, about $7 million. That is the money that is targeted and discussed within the LCAP itself. And you can see here a bigger piece of the pie. We have our projected revenue source in that large pie graph on the left. But if you take out the blue LCFF funds into that circle on the right, the LCAP funding is that small wedge, that small blue wedge. And again, that's the portion that we're discussing as a part of the LCAP this evening. The LCAP is the way that it is because it ensures accountability and transparency to our community. It is updated annually, and it does reflect input from multiple educational partners. Our guiding principles are that all means all, and we do want all students to be able to be global citizens and function in the world. It aligns, this LCAP aligns with our district's core values to provide enhanced learning opportunities for students, offer a wide range of challenging and inspiring courses, ensure a safe and inclusive environment, and guaranteeing equitable access to core academic instruction for our students. So when we build the LCAP, it's based on our state's 10 priorities. You can see them here on this slide. Those 10 priorities are broken into 3 areas. You can see the orange area is student outcomes, that's academic focus. Conditions of learning is the blue section, that is about making our schools safe for students where they want to come to school each day. And the green priorities are aligned with engagement, and so we have a goal for each of those priority areas. We have established 3 goals based on those 3 focus areas that are developed based on the 10 the 10 state priorities. We then look at the needs of our students that are addressed and related to those 3 goals, and we determine what actions we can take to support growth in all of those 3 goal areas. Back on December 13th, our school board approved the appointment of LCAP Advisory Committee and District English Learners Advisory Council. Those committees have been meeting monthly since your approval back in December to review the LCAP and to get input for the development of the update. The LCAP, again, has that focus on equity, and you can see here, these are the 3 goals that we created based on the 10 priorities of our state. Goal 1, to increase the percentage of students who graduate college and or career ready. Goal 2, to provide an engaging, clean, healthy, and physically and emotionally safe environment. And Goal 3, to enhance parent and community engagement and communication. We engaged in a listening campaign. Not only did we meet monthly with the LCAP and DLAC committees, but we also had a listening campaign where we reached out to parent groups, student groups, and staff groups to get full input from all of our educational partners. So we asked this question: what are the most important things our district needs to think about in order to support all students in the areas of academic achievement, physical and emotional health and safety, and parent and guardian engagement? And some major themes that came through were a focus on college and career readiness, curriculum and instruction, diversity, equity, and inclusion, student learning, staff support and professional development, intervention and supports for our students, mental health, social, emotional well-being and safety, technology and resources, student and parent guardian engagement, and facilities all rose to the top. I'm going to give a very brief overview of each of those groups. Our elementary parents really had a focus on social emotional learning, a need to support differentiated learning.
academic enrichment, ideally after school, and really focusing on safety, addressing bullying and student inappropriate behavior. Some top thoughts from our middle school parents, also focused on safety and addressing bullying and inappropriate behavior, improved communication, academic support for students, particularly in the area of mathematics, and homework and grading updates for their student success. At the high school level, they wanted to ensure that we have high quality teachers with timely grading and hands-on activities, increased communication from school to home, definitely mental health support that was throughout all the groups, and a focus and increased conversation around homework and grading. We surveyed our students, and we've mentioned this before. There was definitely a focus on meals and bathrooms, as per always. I do have a plan to work closely with student services and child nutrition to engage in more in-depth conversations with our students in the fall. But we also heard from students that they also have an interest in their instruction and homework. They want college and career counseling. They want us to understand how their learning affects their mental health. And they want emotional support and accommodations and more connection with their staff. Our other groups similarly shared an increased interest in mental health, academic supports for students, and equity and inclusion to address opportunity gaps with an equity lens, and more training for our staff in that area. So our LCAP does embrace what we affectionately refer to as the 3 E's: educational equity, English learners, and early literacy, and we're also adding numeracy, so early literacy and numeracy. Our first goal, the goal there is listed: increase the percentage of students who graduate college and or career ready. And these are some of the expenses that are funded through the LCAP. And you can see there's a wide range of resources that are supported to help all of our students move forward with a particular focus. And you can see IB support, because IB is here for us. And we are here for IB. Here are some of our amazing students in action. And here are some of the specialized programs that we have to give our students some really innovative and creative opportunities so we can support a multitude of students in a multitude of ways. We also use funds under Goal 1 to provide instructional materials and professional development, and summer school, high school credit recovery and intervention. We also offer transportation for field trips, including college visits. And also provide foster youth liaisons, child welfare and attendant staff, nurses, and counselors to support the specific needs of our foster youth. And here are some of the ways we support academics and enrichment. Goal 2 focuses on providing an engaging, clean, healthy, and physically and emotionally safe environment. And here are some of the ways we do that through reduced class sizes, professional development around multi-tiered systems of support and PBIS, counselors, again, more transportation. And we do ensure smaller class sizes for our highest need schools and programs. So the schools that have the highest number of unduplicated students, they have the benefit of some smaller class sizes. Here are ways that we focus on the good in our schools, and it makes me proud to look at those photos. But again, PBIS is huge. It helps us to find ways to teach students correct behavior instead of always going for punishment and reducing suspensions. We collect data on this through the California Healthy Kids Survey and the Panorama Survey that we send to students. And Goal 3, enhancing parent and community engagement and communication. That is done through the LCAP, through additional staff, providing resources for Livermore Learns, translation services, and technology. Here are some of our engaged families. Also, we're supporting ESL, or English as a Second Language classes, computer literacy classes for adults. And we also offer parenting classes.
Again, the nurses, child welfare and attendance staff, child care for meetings, and translation and interpretation services all fall within the LCAP in terms of ways we can help support our community in maintaining a connection with our schools. Here are some of the things that our community engagement department does, because sometimes people see just one piece of it, but you can see there are surveys and websites and messages and partnerships and the publications and social media. So our community engagement department really does a lot to help us stay connected with our parents and our community. So the process for the LCAP and the timeline, we started meeting with those approved groups back in January, and it says January through April we worked on really meeting and updating. We presented the updated LCAP draft to our committees for review and comment. The LCAP has been posted on our website, and a link has been sent to our entire parent community asking for questions if they have any questions about the LCAP. Those questions have been gathered, and answers will be posted by the end of this week to those questions on our website, so that all of our community can see the questions as well as the answers to them. And why are we here today? I'm presenting to you this LCAP for your consideration and for our public's input for the public hearing. And we will be back at the next meeting next week for hopeful approval. And that concludes my presentation. And before opening the public hearing, if you'd like to ask any questions, I'm happy to answer those now.
Thank you very much. We have no cards, so we'll close any public comment on this. Any questions, comments? Trustee Guzman?
Yes. Just, can you clarify, I believe I know, but I want to make sure that we're all, an unduplicated count student?
Absolutely. So we refer to that as unduplicated count. It's our English learners, our low income, and our foster youth. We call them unduplicated because a student might fall into more than one of those categories, but we won't count them more than once. They could be an English learner and a foster youth, or a foster youth and low income, but they only count one time, so we refer to them as unduplicated.
Okay. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for asking.
Trustee Drone?
I'm interested in foster youth and how I see that there's a lot that the district does that potentially could support foster youth, but are there aspects of this that directly focus on specifically foster youth as opposed to students, and some of them might be foster youth? And then secondly, related to that, do we collect data specifically on foster youth and how they relate to some of those programs or supports?
We do, and there was a slide way back at the beginning that kind of gave you the percentage, and I can look here and tell you which slide. Oh, it was right at the beginning. It had the yellow circle. It's the first page inside your handout. So our foster youth is 0.1%, but we do have somebody dedicated to ensuring connection with our foster youth and their families to ensure they have all the necessary support, so they get priority consideration on every opportunity that's available, and we do monitor their progress, their attendance, because they are, regardless of the number, whether it's 1 or 1,000, they absolutely matter, so we follow them closely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Trustee Wong?
Thank you for this. The LCAP is kind of the meat and potatoes of what we do, and I know you were only able to just skim the surface of all of it. It's a big job to put together. The one question I have is, I know we've talked about how decade after decade bathrooms emerges as a top problem for high school students, and I recently was meeting with some high school students on just something else entirely, and they brought up bathrooms as a really top issue for them, because it's something that affects their daily comfort in school, and they basically try to never go to the bathroom. I mean, what can actually be done about this? Because we know this is a long-standing problem.
Sure, and this was actually something that we discussed at length at the LCAP Advisory Committee, because we did review the feedback from all of our educational partners, including our students, and they were concerned, and the majority of the members of the LCAP Advisory Committee are parents who had stories to share about their own children's experiences.
And that was, when I had addressed that slide, I'm planning to connect with Tracy Christmas, our Director of Student Services, and the administrators at our comprehensive high schools to have a more in-depth, in-person connection with a random sampling of our students. I don't want just like the leadership class I would like a randomization selected group of students where we can sit down and better understand, because I don't have the full grasp of all of the issues that exist,
Right.
but it's been prevalent enough that I committed to the LCAP advisory committee that I will be working with student services, and then they also have concerns about meals and connecting with our child nutrition department to sit down, talk to students, help us understand what your challenges really are, and involving the administrators at that site so that we can collaboratively problem solve, because that's a basic human need. Back to Bloom's and Maslow's, that is a very basic human need, and if our students are not feeling safe to use the restroom, I need to understand that better, and we need to work collaboratively to eliminate that as a problem.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing, it seems to be a range of things. It's not just
Yep.
one thing, but they're all connected to and them feeling comfortable going to the bathroom. So I appreciate you
Yeah.
bringing some attention to that.
Yeah, the survey results were things from vaping in the bathroom to, just a wide variety of different issues. And so we want to really, rather than just have an automated tool that gives us a partial piece of the picture, we want to really have face-to-face conversations with students and let them be a part of the solution, because they know their schools as well. So I don't want to say, well, tell us all your problems and how we'll fix them. It's really about having a dialogue and working with our students and our administrators and the teachers at the site to work together to help us understand what the concerns are and then collaboratively come up with solutions. So that's the plan for the fall.
That would be great. And if you could report back to us, it could just be in a memo or something, just to let us know if something, you're able to come up with something for that.
I will absolutely. It would be my pleasure to do that. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Wong. On that note, relative to that, the LCAP, school districts from all over the state participate in the LCAP. And I'm going to guess or estimate that bathrooms for high school students would probably be an issue in most districts. And I guess what I'm looking for is, if that's the case, perhaps a solution doesn't exist. And if a solution does exist, prior to meeting with the kids to find out what ideas and things, we could go with suggestions. Someone has to have a gold standard. Someone has to have addressed this and has a resolve for it.
And that may be, I think that the way that we collect data from our educational partners by giving them absolutely free response is not typically how people collect data. I think they give very, I can't speak to how everybody does it, but I think using the Thought Exchange platform allows absolutely every response. So it gives us the opportunity to uncover trends that may not be evident in other data collection formats where there's pre-described or predetermined outcomes and you have to select between them like a typical survey would be. So bathrooms don't really, I guess it does align because it's a safe, emotionally and physically safe learning environment. And so I don't know if bathrooms come up in other, but that's a great question that I'll ask next time I meet with the other assistant soups from Alameda County. I'll ask for some thinking around that collaboratively and see what solutions others have come up with. That's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Okay. I would imagine that there's a district, at least one, that has no issues with food at the high school level, and maybe one that has no issues with bathrooms. It would just be interesting to see, for someone who I understand we use the thought bubble, and that's really going to let something really visualize and some may not. But if there's a wire or an exchange that people share thoughts on from district to statewide, we have the state superintendent and Tony Thurman. If someone has to have addressed this, and there has to be a solution.
Well, I will begin my investigation.
Okay, thank you very much. No other questions, comments? All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Thede. And good luck. Okay, Mr. Van Schaack, if you can introduce our next item.
Fantastic. We're going to move on now to the area of finance, and our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, Teresa Fiskus, is going to provide some information about the 23-24 budget adoption. This will be the first of really two presentations. This one will be an introduction and a public hearing where we can get additional input from the public if they would like to give that, and then next time she will be asking for approval.
Good evening, President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Van Schaack, and Cabinet. Tonight, I'm here to present information for the public hearing on the 2023-2024 adopted budget proposal. So when a school district budget is brought before the board for adoption, California state law requires that the public be given an opportunity to address the board with any comments or concerns that they may have about the budget proposal. A public hearing for this purpose was announced by the Alameda County Office of Education. It was advertised in local newspapers and will be held immediately preceding this presentation, following this presentation. So our district operates 15 separate funds. This presentation will focus on the general fund, which is the main operating fund of our school district. Our budget timeline for the 2023-2024 fiscal year is that the public hearing for the adopted budget is being held tonight on June 13th. Our adopted budget will be brought back to the school board for approval on June 20th. The 45-day revision period allows our district to revise our budget once the state enacts their final budget. The first interim budget report will report any changes to our budget through October 31st and will be presented to our board for approval in December. And the second interim report, which reports changes to the budget through January 31st, will be presented to the board in March for approval. For our general fund budget summary, we are estimating a beginning balance of $22,264,327. We are projecting revenues of $192,609,512, with expenditures of $205,299,216, resulting in a reduction in our ending fund balance with an estimated total of $9,585,635. Our revenue assumptions were used following the governor's May revision proposal. So we have used the 8.22% COLA contained in the May revision. We have not added any additional funding to the LCFF base, how it was done in prior year. And then the universal transitional kindergarten add-on is $3,044 per TK student. For our average daily attendance, we are projecting our funded ADA to be 12,632. That is based on using an average of the prior 3 years' attendance. We have removed all prior one-time funding from the budget, which includes $4.4 million in one-time federal funding, which consisted of our ESSER and ELOP COVID dollars, a reduction to the Magnet Grant, and the one-time Latinx program. A reduction of $15.6 million in one-time state funding, which was the funding our district received for the art and music discretionary block grant, as well as the learning recovery block grant, and then any carryover from 2021-2022 restricted grants that were included in the budget. We are also projecting Measure A parcel tax could bring in approximately $4 million. Our revenues are shown here on this chart, and if you focus on the very large blue section, you can see that that's our local control funding formula, or LCFF revenue. That, combined with the green piece, which is our other state revenue, shows that our state funding actually makes up 88.3% of our total revenue, which is why we are so focused on the governor's proposal, because the state's budget has a significant impact on our funding. For our expenditure assumptions, we have included the ongoing competitive compensation adjustment that was approved for March 1st of 6%, and the additional 3% that begins on July 1st. That was included for all employees. We've also included the increase to the employer contribution rate for CalPERS. And finally, some good news, we've also included the decrease in the state unemployment insurance rate. And so that rate pre-COVID was 0.05%. When we went through the wave of unemployment associated with COVID, the state increased that rate to 0.5%, which was a significant impact on our budget and our expenditures. And now the state has finally reduced the rate back down. And so for the first time since COVID, we are projecting a 0.05% rate again for state unemployment insurance. Our staffing ratios remain the same as 2022-23. All of the expenditures that Assistant Superintendent Thiede just explained in the LCAP are contained in our budget proposal. And we are projecting an estimated transfer of $1.4 million to the Tri-Valley ROP, but that will be offset with approximately $1.2 million in revenues brought in through that agency for the CTE incentive grant. Our expenditures are shown here, and if you focus on the blue, orange, green, and darker orange pieces of the pie, you will see that staffing makes up a significant amount of our budget. Oops. So 85.9% of our expenditures are projected to be spent on staffing. We are a people business. We know that people and our teachers and our staff make the most significant impact on our students, which is why that's where the majority of our funding lies. Our multi-year projection is shown here. It shows our current budget of 2023-24 and our first 2 out years. As you can see in our first budget year, as explained in one of the earlier slides, we are projecting deficit spending of $12,678,692. This is mainly attributed to the 2 very large one-time grants received from the state and the spending down of those funds. You can see that we are projecting a positive ending fund balance in the current year as well as the subsequent 2 years. And we are projecting to meet our legally required 3% reserve for economic uncertainties. Our multi-year projection does include $6 million in budget reductions for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. Our next steps is that the school board will hold a public hearing to receive comments from the community. The budget will be adjusted if needed and presented at the June 20th board meeting for budget adoption. And once the state's budget is adopted, our district has 45 days to submit a budget revision that includes current information from the state, updated staffing and enrollment projections, and any additional board decisions. At this time, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to each of the board trustees who took their time to come in and either meet with myself or the superintendent to discuss the budget in great detail. It showed that the board trustees have a significant investment in the fiscal health of our district. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have before asking the board to open the public hearing.
Thank you very much. Prior to opening up this portion, I just have to correct under what became 9.4, the LCAP. I just want to make sure that it might be semantics, but I want to make sure we get the LCAP thing right. On the opening, I don't know that we properly opened the public hearing. I know that we closed it. So procedurally, under the LCAP, I want to say that we have no cards, but that we'll open the public hearing and then close the public hearing. We had no cards.
Correct.
So I just want to make sure that it's reported correctly so that we make sure we get that correct.
Yeah. You did ask for public comment. Although
Correct.
Maybe semantically speaking, you should have said, I'm opening public,
Opening the
hearing.
public hearing.
Yeah.
But we didn't, and I didn't. So
We'll make sure it's noted in the minutes.
That's correct in the minutes. Now on this one, 9.5, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing on this item, on the public hearing for 23-24 budget adoption. There are one card, and this is for Sky McLeod. Good evening.
Good evening to board trustees and to the district administration. The IB community truly appreciates that the district leaders and school board trustees considered the concerns of students, parents, community members who advocated to maintain the IB program. As you now understand, over 400 students took at least one IB class just this year alone. IB brings revenue into LVJUSD and the students who commute from other cities to attend Granada.
We'll switch you out. We'll go ahead and stop the clock, the timer, if we're able to. We'll switch it out. So for those listening, we had a little technical difficulty. We wore out a battery. Okay, you're back on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Take your time, get reset.
I have to find my place again. Let's see, okay. With the promotion last week of the first cohort of students who have completed the K through 8 IB curriculum at Joe Mitchell, we are just beginning to see the impact of offering the full K-12 IB continuum in Livermore schools. We are excited about the potential for this program that we have invested so much time and money into to get to this point. As for future program budgeting and cuts, it would be useful to have a more standardized way of comparing the data from the educational programs so that we don't end up comparing apples to oranges again. The State Department of Education tracks a small portion of the demographics for these programs, but the district could provide publicly more accurate numbers. The transparency would also help for the community. We could see if each program is reaching students of different socioeconomic and ethnic backgrounds or with learning challenges, English learners, to know where to focus efforts and best utilize existing programs. If we had a standard comparison for all aspects of the programs, it would be more efficient, clear, and fair. The IB curriculum is accessible for students with a wide range of learning styles and backgrounds, and is about so much more than just diploma completion for college-bound students. Students of all educational goals can benefit from taking any IB class. Investing in this program demonstrates that our community values critical thinking, problem-solving, global awareness, and academic choice. IB is a great resource for improving educational outcomes for LVJUSD students and meeting those LCAP goals. The IB Parents Working Group is optimistic for the future of the program at Granada and for our partnership with all of you and with the teachers. Thank you for reinstating IB.
Thank you. And with that, we have no others, so we're going to go ahead and close the public comment on the budget adoption. And we have any questions, comments from the board? Trustee Drone.
So hearing about the 3-year rolling average, I know we can't look into crystal balls, but is that going to stay, or amongst the community, is this going to go away? Because this is something important.
Although we don't have a crystal ball, I certainly have an opinion after following the state's budget for the last 20 years. My belief is that the rolling average will go away once district's ADA recovers from COVID. So at a certain point in the future, it will no longer be beneficial to districts to continuing using a 3-year rolling average as those COVID years start entering that time frame. So my guess would be at that time, the state will go back to its previous formula of current year or prior year ADA. But again, that is just a guess.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your optimism because, given the, Governor Newsom retracting funds, my fear was that this would be another way to, perhaps cut costs of sending money to districts is getting rid of the rolling average. So I'm with you, I hope.
Thank you, Trustee Drone. Trustee Prusso.
Just a comment. I just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Viscus for always being available to explain the budget and for allowing me to ask lots of questions and explaining on a level that even I can understand. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. No further questions. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. I would like to invite Mr. Glenn Sherman forward to give us his well-anticipated and very exciting report on summer projects that he will be heading up for the 22-23 school year.
Very exciting and anticipated, yes. Good evening, Board President Bueno, Board Trustees, Superintendent Van Schaack, Cabinet. I'm Glenn Sherman, the Director of Maintenance Operations and Facilities for the Livermore Joint Unified School District. I'm here tonight to discuss the work that we will be doing all summer while students and staff are taking their summer break. Now, this first slide, this picture, is of the beautiful new swimming complex recently completed by our bond department at Livermore High School, as captured by Herb Guidry, who is our pool coordinator. And I believe I started last year's report with a nice picture that he also took at Granada Swimming Pool Complex. So got to give both schools equal time here. So this summer, as we have been doing for the past several years, we'll be getting some much needed roofing work done. The rains of the 2022-23 rainy season really put an exclamation point on the need to continue repairing and replacing worn roofing throughout the district. We'll be working on the main building at Livermore High School, the Christensen Multipurpose Room, East Avenue Band and Library Building, and Building D classrooms at Junction K-8 School. This work is being funded by Measure J. So we can get the work done without interrupting instruction, we take care of many of our safety inspections over the summer. Fire alarm devices, fire sprinkler systems, backflow devices, fire extinguishers, and kitchen Ansel fire suppression devices are inspected and recertified. This important safety compliance work is done using the portion of the parcel tax that is allotted to the maintenance department for this purpose. Among the projects that the grounds department will be working on this year will be helping to restore the garden area at East Avenue, Lawrence and Maryland Avenue, working on almond trees at Vineyard School, planting trees at Smith, and working on middle school tracks and other sports fields. With the amount of rain we received this year, grounds has been in a tough spot, battling falling trees, extra weeds, extreme vigorous growth, and of our shrubs and plants in the district from all the extra rain. So they've been playing some catch up, and we hope to get caught up this summer. Painting projects include East Avenue Building K, west facing side of the exterior of Del Val, and the Jackson Avenue School sign, to name a few of them. As you can see from these pictures, they're very much due for this type of work. Restriping work will take place at several schools this summer. These photos are examples of why this is needed, and these represent parking lots at Altamont Creek and Croce. So you can see, if you're driving a vehicle there, it'd be a little difficult to see what you're actually supposed to be doing with the way that currently looks. Over the past several years, legislation has been passed regarding the proper separation of materials that can be recycled. Livermore School District has been working with the Alameda County Stop Waste folks, and we'll be getting some new carts and trash receptacles so we can begin to fully comply with these mandates. And summer break also gives us an opportunity to deep clean our schools. Custodians remove and clean furniture, scrub carpets, and strip and wax tile floors. And we have staff that clean and then reseal our wood floors, such as in our gyms, Del Val hallways, multi-purpose room at Junction Avenue K-8 School. And there's just a host of other items that we'll be doing. We'll be installing acoustic wall pads to deaden the sound in the Mendenhall Wood Shop. We'll be creating office space in room 8 at Arroyo Seco. We'll be removing old wall heaters at Granada High School in the counseling area. There's a picture of one there in the center. Installing the second of the donated HVAC units received from the city of Livermore when they demoed their old Chambers portable building. You might recall that this last winter we exchanged out one of our units on the counseling center building with one that we received from them. We'll have a second one. We're going to do the same with the other unit that's up there. We're going to bring hot water to the science room at room 11 at Rancho and replace Livermore High School theater curtain, as long as it comes in on time, and planting new trees in areas where trees blew down during the windstorm of March 14th, like I mentioned with Smith, just in the Smith backfill alone, we lost 9 trees on that day. So we'll be planting trees in more places. And we'll perform the annual fit inspections on all our campuses. So this is just a partial list. There's numerous other small items that are on our regular work through Help Desk, which is our work order system that we use. And I'd like to thank you all as you support our maintenance department, and that is the key to our success. Pictured in the center are the folks that really get this work done. The staff at Maintenance, Operation, and Facilities, or as we like to call it, the MOF department. We have 10 weeks to try and achieve a good amount of work, and we plan on being able to show you the results of another busy summer for us when I report back to you in September. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no speaker cards, so we'll close public comment on this, and we open it up to comments. Trustee Guzman?
Yeah, thank you. So thank you because there was grounds overgrowth on the back of Granada, and I mentioned it to Superintendent Van Schaack, and the next day your team was out there. So thank you. But I'm also curious, like these roof pictures have me. I'm curious, just how does your team? They have normal rounds. Like, how do they collect this information? What's their day? What's the day like?
Yeah, using the work order system, we can track where we're having issues, right? So we find out from sites where we're getting leak calls, what's going on. So we get out there and take a look at them and assess them. So then we start prioritizing what areas we need to take care of.
Thank you. Trustee Drone.
Just sincere appreciation. I think the quote at the end, what was it? You help students and staff have a better day, and I think that really sums up that the work that you do is essential for our district to serve students and support staff and faculty. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think what some people may not, when everyone goes home over the summer, your guys are out there working and getting the schools all shaped up. And there's also another component that we can't overlook, and that is that with all the new facility work that we've done, 200 and arguably over 200 million, close to $240 million, all the protocols for the maintenance of all those new facilities, the athletic complex at Livermore High, it's a big learning curve, and I know that your department has to pick all that up. And I just want you to know you have support. If there's things that you guys have to, adjust to, it's more obligation. It's the same amount of school sites, but I know that with all the new facilities, let's not touch them. There's a different maintenance curve to those. So, just as one member of the board, I'd say that let's not think that there's no support or that, let's just keep doing it the same way. I know that some of the guys are out there and they're busting their butts. You mentioned Herb, who does the pools. That was a big learning curve, and that's a huge asset for our community when we've done the ribbon cuttings and stuff. So if anything you guys need in that regard, I would truly appreciate it. So thank you. They do a great job. Any other comments, questions? We'll go ahead and close at 9:06, and we can introduce 10.0.
Fantastic. I'd like to invite up Mr. Jason Krolikowski. He is going to handle the course descriptions, which are the next 3 items. He is our Director of Secondary Education, and this is actually a holdover from the last board meeting, and so I know he's excited to get these before you tonight.
Test. Good evening, President Bueno, members of the board, Superintendent Van Schaack, and members of Cabinet. My name is Jason Krolikowski. I'm Director of Secondary Education, and I'm here tonight to present 3 new courses for approval. Our first course is called Biking for Fitness. This is a new course to our program. We have a very passionate educator at a certain high school who wants to bring this into our schools. As you can see from the slide, this will be everything from A to Z, with bikes ranging from maintenance to care to safety, as well as obviously getting the physical activity that we know our students desperately need. I know there will be questions about bikes, but there's a collection of bikes at the school, and students will also be able to bring their own. But no child will have, there won't be any children without bikes in this course, so that's something just to alleviate any concerns. But ultimately, as I said, they're going to be taking it from the basic part to all the way up into safety and writing and finding trails. They are going to be staying local, of course, and our superintendent's recommendation is to approve the course Biking for Fitness.
We have no cards on this, so I'll close public comment on this. And any questions? Yes.
So I'm curious, 2 questions actually. How is demand created for this course for students so that you get a full section?
Yes, so a course like this, because it's added so late, the school will oftentimes send out an email asking students if there's an interest, and they'll roster the class accordingly. In typical years, if this had gone a little bit earlier, they could advertise it as during the registration season as students are signing up for classes for the following year.
Okay, so with that, do we think it'll be still for next academic year, maybe just a later trimester?
We can potentially get it in for the beginning of the school year, but I know that, for example, the school will oftentimes have a placeholder for this course. If it doesn't run, they can easily shift it into a different class and let students know their options.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Drone.
Just building from my own knowledge, was this, I believe that I saw some students riding around as part of a class. So was this like a PE teacher that was doing this as part of like a broader PE curriculum, and so now they're making a new class, or am I mistaken?
I'm unaware of any formal class with
Okay.
bikes in it, but perhaps it was a club or an after-school activity that you may have seen.
So, but something like this hasn't existed before?
Not to my knowledge.
Cool.
Trustee Wong.
Does this fulfill the graduation requirement, the PE requirement?
This can serve as a 10th grade PE requirement option for the individual sport.
And does there need to be a certain number of students enrolled to have the class?
Much like any of our other classes, there will need to be a basic minimum. I think we won't consider really running a class with less than 28, especially in a PE class. So we wouldn't run it without a demand. Oftentimes we do put courses forward that don't immediately get implemented, but we have them on the books so that when we want to recruit and advertise, we have it ready to go.
And this is fully outdoors. This is not an indoor cycling.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Unless we're building a new facility that I'm unaware of.
Thank you, Trustee Wong. Just one question on this. You know, we've had the long-standing program that's been beneficial to a lot of kids over at Del Val, Mr. Krzyzewski runs. Is there any opportunity for any collaboration? When I see maintenance, and we have a bicycle maintenance shop, and also they also provide bikes, where they might be able to collaborate a little bit, or is that not part of it?
It's not, excuse me, been a thought in this course, but it absolutely should be, and it's an excellent idea. So I would imagine there will be collaboration. There's bikes there, so for any students that maybe we need to get for or the school can purchase from Del Val, that's certainly an option, and beyond.
Yeah, it's just when we see, you know, we mentioned earlier the culinary stuff over with Diane Russell over at Del Val. I think sometimes it's nice to be able to showcase people who are, you know, in a different type of a high school. They're in a comprehensive high school, but in their support role. Like when Del Val helped us out at Junction when we did a big bike donation, they did all the assembly and stuff. And I think it's a real positive note for some of the kids over there that are going to maybe go on or find some, additional self-worth and things like that.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, if there's no further questions, then I would entertain a motion on this item.
As somebody who has a fixed gear Bianchi Pista, I would enthusiastically approve the new course Biking for Fitness.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Drone, enthusiastically supporting. It's been seconded by Trustee Prusso. Any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll.
Trustee Wong.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Trustee Drowan.
Aye.
Trustee Guzman.
Aye.
President Bueno.
Enthusiastically, aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next item, please.
Thank you. I enthusiastically bring forward a new course called Advancement via Individual Determination, also known as an acronym of AVID. If you really pause and take a look at what that acronym means, it is exactly what it is. The AVID elements of relational capacity, high expectations, collaboration, inquiry, and organization, obviously that's something all of our ninth graders could stand to benefit from. It is a UC-approved elective course for students who are college-bound, but could use more support. The curriculum focuses on writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading, all with the goal of getting students college-ready. And in ninth grade, a major focus is on the transition to high school and keeping up with the workload. It's a very popular program in many districts, and we're excited to bring this to our high schools. Inevitably, the program can grow into an AVID 10, 11, and 12. And it turns into this wonderful group of students that aren't necessarily taking AP courses, might be first-generation college. We target underserved populations to get our students to have a college-bound culture of learning. With that, the superintendent's recommendation is to approve the new course of advancement via individual determination, AVID 9.
Thank you very much. We have no comment cards. We'll close public comment and questions, comments. Trustee Prusso.
Not really a question, but I know that at Middle College they do these AVID courses, and they're very popular, and the students talk about them a lot, about how important they are for them. So I think I'm really in support of this.
Thank you very much. Trustee Druin.
Similarly, I don't think it's really a question. Just AVID is like a culture, right? And I think that trying to make sure that it's invested and that you're getting the right students in it, because sometimes people see it as, you know, this student, it's not credit recovery, right? And so it needs to be the right students that are in this class so that they can be those students that need the bump to, you know, what is college? How do I have the skills to get in it to support them? So I'm hoping that, you know, enthusiastic about this as well. So.
Stephen, you're so enthusiastic tonight.
Is it 10:23 or?
So, okay. All right. Exhausting all comments. This is an action item, so if someone can make a motion, entertain one.
I enthusiastically move that we approve the new course, Advancement via Individual Determination, AVID 9.
Should I enthusiastically second it?
Any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Trustee Druin.
Aye.
Trustee Guzman.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Trustee Wong.
Aye.
President Bueno.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. And if we could
Thank you.
enthusiastically move into algebra.
I did not plan on bringing this much enthusiasm to these courses, but I'm glad.
Seldom is it the word.
Everyone calm down. Calm down. Let's just get through this.
Okay, our last and final new course is Algebra 2 Trigonometry with Python Honors. You'll recall that we introduced Geometry with Python last year as a course at Livermore High School, and it has been incredibly successful. Once again, it introduces programming into a curriculum in line with the Cal State standards for math and Algebra 2 and trigonometry. Through the application of the Python programming, students will build their knowledge for mathematical concepts by analyzing real-life situations, interpreting given information, and decomposing the operations into a defined step-by-step algorithm. Also, the program allows for students to more easily visualize mathematical problems through software graphing and emphasizes explicit understanding of the process over an implicit one by demanding students a step-by-step process to find a solution instead of just the solution itself. With that, we would like to, superintendent's recommendation is to approve the Algebra 2 Trigonometry with Python Honors course.
Thank you. There's no public cards. We'll close public comment. Entertain any questions or comments?
I just want to say this is the class I'm very enthusiastic about. Python is so important now, and so I'm really glad to see this being incorporated into Algebra 2.
Thank you very much. Exhausting all comments. I'd entertain a motion on this.
I will move that we approve Algebra 2
Enthusiastic.
Trigonometry with Python Honors very enthusiastically.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Trustee Wong. It's been seconded by Trustee Druin. Any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Myself, aye. Trustee Druin.
Aye.
Trustee Wong.
Aye.
Trustee Guzman.
Aye.
President Bueno.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Moving into 10-4, please.
Our final discussion action item for the evening, I will invite Ms. Kelly Mankey, our Assistant Superintendent of Administrative Services, to provide information to the board about the agreement recently reached with the Livermore Education Association.
Thank you. So good evening, Board President Bueno, Superintendent Van Schaack, members of the board and cabinet. I am here to seek your approval of our successor agreement between the Livermore Education Association and LVJUSD. So on May 25th, sorry, it's late. I can't concentrate on two things here. So on May 25th, we completed our negotiations with LEA with the tentative agreements on the following articles, appendices, and MOU. So I'm going to go through these quickly, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end. So Article 8 for work year, we clarified language around the salary schedule. We had some adjustments to make for next year, and so we made those. We also added the job description of social worker to our list of course descriptions, and so they were also added to our salary schedule. Article 9 for work day, we added language on combination classes. We will have one next year, or 4 or 5 at Smith Elementary. And we clarified language around emergency prep coverage and sub-plans for our co-taught teachers, trying not to pull them away from their students that they support, their special education students. For Article 10, special education, we updated our language. We used to use the term mod severe, but the new credential, it's called extensive support needs, and so we updated our language around that. For Article 11, which is our partial service employment, we clarified our language for part-time employees and for advancement on the salary schedule. For Article 13, our mentoring program, we added language to include all certificated employees. So before it just said teachers, and so now we've included our nurses, counselors, school psychologists, and speech and language pathologists. Article 20, for employee rights, we added language around academic freedom. We aligned to the education code as well as board policy. And we added language that established guidelines and members' responsibilities around standards and content and personal opinions, private life and off-duty political activities. For Article 21, we remove language setting caps on years of service credit. So now we used to accept 17 years. We'll accept all years of service credit. Amy referenced this earlier this year, and so we hope that will help with our recruitment efforts. Article 26, we updated our language around the laws around parental leave. If you were a spouse in the district, you had to share the 12 weeks of leave, and now you each get 12 months of leave if you have a spouse that works in the district. Article 36, our reopeners. Next year, we will reopen our salary and benefits along with 3 additional articles. Appendix A is our 23-24 school calendar. That's been updated. Appendix D, we added some additional stipends, including link crew advisor, lead psychologist, and lead speech and language pathologist. Our salary schedules were updated with language. If you recall, we added an additional day last year, so we removed that language, and then we added the years of service, extending that for all years of service. We also have included already, which was already signed, our MOU for compensation for the 22 and 23 school year. And then LEA voted to ratify the successor agreement on June 8th of 2023. So the superintendent's recommendation is to approve the successor agreement between the Livermore Education Association and the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. We have no comment cards, so we'll close public comment on this. Is there any comments, questions? Comments, questions? Trustee Prusso.
I just wanted to extend a comment. I looked kind of briefly, looked at all of the different agreements, and I recognize that the hard work from both teams, I think, working together for this, and I think that it's important to state that in my experience of speaking with other districts, it's not always as collaborative as it is here. So I just wanted to extend my appreciation to our district group and then also to those of LEA for working together collaboratively to come to a conclusion. I think that's really important that we have these relationships with our employee groups. So I just wanted to commend you on that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I too would like to thank you guys, the district, for working with our bargaining groups. LEA has always been kind of the lead in this, usually go first. And to thank LEA specifically and their leadership for the work that they put in working in that collaboration to make sure that our teachers, and identifying some sources so that our teachers, nurses, school psychologists, and then so forth throughout the district are well compensated so that we can compete and try to retain and to bring in and retain, attract and retain the best talent, because it's going to benefit our kids. And I think that's something that we can't lose sight of. And also, I noticed one other thing in here. It's not any direction. I'm for what you did here. It's just when I see the prep for the sub things, I just don't want us to lose track. I know one of the things when we're talking about student outcomes, over the years we've touched on it. I know it's an expensive expenditure, but it was the middle school prep. It's just that as we renegotiate with folks over the years, it's just that we don't lose track of that, because I know it's been mentioned by a couple leadership teams and the district, but I know it's a costly venture to try to do that, but that we keep maybe some attraction on that, or just some attention. We do some analysis of what that might mean in terms of student outcomes on that middle school prep, because it seems like it's been stated as a value for teachers, which means it would be a value for kids. So in maybe following agreements. I don't know if you have thoughts on that or anything.
Yeah, we did have a middle school prep committee this year. We did not decide to move forward with the middle school prep, but always something for us to consider when we look at schedules for the following years. And next year, we plan to look at things a little bit earlier, especially as we look into schedules and what that might look like.
That's great. Thank you. If there's no other comments or questions, I'd entertain a motion on this item.
I move that we approve the successor agreement between the Livermore Education Association and the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District.
I second that.
So we have a motion by Trustee Prusso, and it's been seconded by Trustee Guzman. Any questions on the motion? This is in support of the superintendent's recommendation on this item. Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Trustee Guzman.
Aye.
Trustee Druin.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Trustee Wong.
Aye.
President Bueno.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right. Okay, we're going into consent. And on consent, the 11. If we move in their entirety, we have 11-2 through 11-18.
Mr. President, I move that we approve consent items 11-2 through 11-18 in their entirety.
Thank you.
I second.
A motion by Trustee Prusso to move the consent items in their entirety. It's been seconded by Trustee Wong. Any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll.
Trustee Wong.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Trustee Druin.
Aye.
Trustee Guzman.
Aye.
President Bueno.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Under our consent resos, we had a single issue, and we moved 12.2 up to 9.3. So there's nothing under our consent resos. We didn't remove anything for separate on the discussion. There's no consent items that were removed. So we'll move right into section 14, which is board member reports, and we'll start with Trustee Wong.
Okay, I have a few things. I attended the 8th grade promotion at East Avenue and then graduations for Middle College, Del Valle, Vineyard, and Granada. I am real good at smiling and clapping. I also attended senior celebrations for green engineering and the IB diploma program. And those are always great to just celebrate the achievements of all the seniors. There were a lot of city events that were relevant to our district. I attended the mayor's State of the City speech along with other trustees. Livermorium Day to celebrate the one-year anniversary of Livermorium Plaza, which and this year was focused on education in particular. I attended the town hall at Rincon Library, the rodeo parade along with the other trustees, and the children's carnival at Civic Center Library. I attended 2 end-of-the-year events at Maryland, their 5th grade concert, which was really great, and the end-of-the-year awards assembly. I attended open house at East Avenue, the CSEA scholarship dinner, 8th grade IB presentations, ribbon cutting for the new LHS pool, thanks to Measure J and the Livermore community. And then Trustee Prusso and I attended the Sunset Principal Tom Fletcher's, what was it, Tacos with Tom. That was great. It was delicious. Yeah. And let's see, last night was our last Tri-Valley SELPA meeting for this school year, and all the school districts are working to fill their last vacant positions in special ed, and also to support the increasing needs of students, particularly in mental health. And speech pathologists continue to be very hard to find. And I especially want to recognize our Senior Director for SELPA, Nanette Gray, who is in the running for the State Special Ed Administrator of the Year. And so we should be hopefully celebrating her in November. And then just a couple quick upcoming things. Saturday is a Juneteenth festival at Bankhead Plaza, so please come down. It's going to be an all-day, all-night party. There's a dance battle afterwards. It's going to be super great. And there's going to be food, vendors, all kinds of stuff. Quest Science is happening right across the street during that time, so downtown's going to be very busy. Both are great events and very family-friendly. And then lastly, I want to let parents know who are looking for something to do with their kids this summer. That I just found this out. May Nissen Pool is open to the public Monday through Saturday. It costs $1. So bring your kids down.
Thank you very much. Trustee Prusso.
I was also busy and I attended many of the same things that Trustee Wong attended, including the middle college graduation, the Livermorium Day, CSEA Awards Dinner, the Senior Awards, the Green Engineering Academy Senior Banquets Dinner, and the aquatics ribbon cutting. Also the high school graduations for Del Val Vineyard, the Christensen promotion, and the rodeo parade, which is the whole reason that I'm on the school board. So that was really fun. And then just on a personal note, I wanted to say that I have 4 kids, and my 3rd child graduated from high school last Friday from Livermore High School, and it was a really exciting day for our family. And I just wanted to say that I'm so grateful to, the teachers and the administrators in our district. I feel like so far I have 3. Well, who knows what's going to happen with number 4, but 3, I think, pretty incredible, almost adults, kind of adults. And a lot of that I attribute to their education here in the Livermore School District. And I wanted to say a special thank you to Helen Gladden, the principal at Livermore High School. She's been there for the past few years. And also the graduating class of 2023. They are the class that started off freshman year with COVID. And they've had a really tough few years. And finally their senior year was pretty great. So pretty resilient kids, and just really grateful that they have been able to make it through and move on to whatever they're going to do, and just really proud of that graduating class, and also my daughter. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Guzman?
Yes. So these past few weeks have been a whirlwind of student and staff celebrations. In late May, I attended the African American Student Achievement Award celebration at Chabot College in Hayward, honoring our Livermore scholars. Thank you to CSA for their invitation to their scholarship dinner. It was great to see their board game theme as they raised funds to offer student scholarships. I attended Junction K-8 open house and was very impressed with the student work, particularly the visual arts. I'm pretty envious of the creatives we have in our student body because I feel all I can do are draw are stick figures. The same creative spirit and mind was demonstrated at Del Val's The Show via their cardboard challenge and the photography produced by students. Attended Vineyard Alternative High School graduation, their 8th grade promotion, as well as Junction K-8 promotion, again to hear the student speakers share their insights, knowledge gained from our schools, but also most importantly, how their individual experiences make them who they are. As inspiring young adults makes me feel like we as a community are doing some things right. And so to our students, continue to lead by example.
Thank you very much. Trustee John.
Well, I have to admit that I was not prepared for how much happens at this time of year, so I think I'll be better prepared next year. I did a lot. I attended the RTF strategic planning meeting with Trustee Wong. East Avenue's choir and orchestra students did a fantastic job at their end of the year presentation. I also attended East Avenue's open house. The facilities are amazing, and it's just transformed the campus. I attended 8th grade IB presentations with Trustees Wong and Guzman, and it was fantastic seeing students look at problems and address them to the extent that they could. I also attended 8th grade promotion and toured the Vineyard facility with Trustee Guzman, which was fantastic. And lastly, I attended Joe Mitchell's 8th grade promotion ceremony, where Dr. Lembo promoted herself to what happens next, which was a fantastic experience to have. So that's some of the things that I've been doing. The Aquatic Center ribbon cutting was fantastic as well, and I think that those facilities are going to be, just such an asset for students in the community. So thanks.
Thank you very much. As the time of year you participate in a lot of outside events and stuff, I want to specifically thank the Livermore Stockmen's Association for what they do. A lot of us, when you come to this community, I came here almost 40 years ago, you're not really sure who runs the parade and this giant rodeo that 10,000 people show up. It was in, I think, 103 years. This is the 4th time it's sold out. So they do a great job of promoting it. There's a direct tie-in to our FFA and 4-H and our ag program, and the opportunities extends kids all the way down to agricultural welding and things like that. It crosses over into the CTE stuff. There's a lot of crossover, and the Livermore Stockmen's Association is key to that component of community support from the parades and given just a lot of little kids and the little princesses that come in for leadership. So thank you to them. And also, I'd like to ask people, the community, to continue to support. There's the direct support for our schools through our school district. But as these kids, a lot of them are working age, a lot of them want to volunteer, a lot of them are working on college projects and things like that. But to consider kids when you're looking to let someone participate, volunteer, or you need an employee, always think of those Livermore students. And to the kids that are out there, stay safe all summer. Think about what you're doing before you do it. Summer's kind of an unsupervised time, and a lot of times kids are used to the structure. When you remove that structure and they're not in athletics or some other kind of supportive thing, unintended consequences happen. So I'd ask those kids to stay involved, and for our community not to forget that we have 13,000 kids that will not be in school outside of a few kids that are going to be going to high school, summer school. So thank you very much, Mr. Van Schaack.
Fantastic. So just to start with, we are thrilled to announce that we were the winners of the rodeo parade in our category. I know that warms Ms. Pruso's heart. Michelle Dawson and Glenn Sherman were responsible for the organization. I think maybe having 15 adorable little kids on the float had something to do with it, but we're thrilled to have been not just a participant, but a winner. Also to mention that this past week has been incredibly heartwarming as we watched over 1,000 students walk across the stages of our high schools and off into whatever happens next in their life. It's doubtful that they will understand this now, but they have really changed us as much as we've changed them. They were the class, as Ms. Proso mentioned, that endured all of the challenges of the pandemic during their high school years, and also became the class that led us back to a sense of normalcy. They taught us a number of lessons along the way, all of which help us to become better at educating students into the future. They help us to remember the incredible impacts that resilience, determination, and flexibility have on one's ability to be successful, both in the world of education and the world beyond it. While those 1,000 students left us and left our high schools, we welcomed nearly 1,000 new students into the high school ranks. Proud promoters from our middle school programs. They are the class of 2027, and they will undoubtedly see changes in the next 4 years that we cannot even imagine. They will enter as wide-eyed freshmen, a little unsure and a little anxious, but will quickly grow into campus leaders and contributors. In 4 years, we will be thanking them for the contributions that they made to our school district. And finally, we are welcoming over 1,200 transitional kindergartners and kindergartners into our LVJUSD family. They are the classes of 2036 and 2037. They will undoubtedly experience things during their time with us that students have never experienced before. We are eager to get them started on their journey to become creative, innovative, collaborative, critical thinkers. It's an amazing journey that they are beginning next year, and we are thankful and appreciative of our role in that. So until next time, when we put a bow on this school year, thank you and good night.
Thank you very much. No further business. We are adjourned at 22:47.